right? Is this Mike from around the world?
Oh, that's right, Pastor Paul. How do you hear me?
Mike?
Is it good?
Uh-oh, no, not good.
Okay, hold on.
It's not you.
Hold on. Let's see.
It wasn't you,
What
Mike.
about now? Is that good?
Yeah,
Is that
you're good. That's good.
There we are.
Beautiful. How you doing tonight, Mike? How you doing? Mike from around the world, are you there? Oh, no, the NSA is mad tonight. Yay. Whoa, the NSA. Mike, are you there?
Well, I'm doing better now.
Oh, that's
everything
great.
is okay now.
Yeah.
There we go.
You are coming in loud and clear. Awesome. How you doing this evening, Mike?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. It's a busy world.
Yeah, I was thinking about you the other day. I was thinking, I don't know what all you do. I've just heard bits and pieces of things you say and where you've been and stuff. And I'm like, what? What all does this guy do, really? And but I don't know. You're probably not allowed to say. But just,
well, actually, we'll have a talk about that soon, you and I, Pastor Paul. You don't want to know half of it, but I'm going to tell you anyway. But yeah, we'll be good to go in that area.
Okay.
But
we'll have that. We'll have a sidebar on that. And I don't want to know half of it.
No, but I'll tell you anyway.
Okay. All right. Mike, we titled this broadcast tonight, "Is This the End?" Now, I'm going to ask you, there's several things. We got Shanghai. We got the Satan II rocket. We got Russian news anchors laughing about annihilating New York City right on national television in Russia. I watched that video myself. We have Mariupol, the atrocities there. A couple thousand people, underneath a steel plant. We got the Holy Land blowing up. So where do we got Mike Tyson beating people up on the plane? I mean, this thing's getting ugly, isn't it?
Well, people are losing control. I believe personally, there was a release among men, and that began in Egypt. I noticed social change within people back in that was what was that, 2013 or 14, with the change in Egypt. Something was released when that guy set himself on fire, and all of a sudden people began to rebel against the governments. Well, I followed that pattern very closely. And when they rebelled against their government, the attacks in the churches began. And then following those attacks in the churches, governments began to break down all over the world and people turn against them. We sit right now in all countries. The people are divided. They are not unified for their government. Right now, every single country is divided sharply in either against or in support of their respective countries. Now, I don't know if people find that to be out of place or not, but it's beyond coincidence that this is happening in every single state, not to mention the crime rate has gone up. Not just any ordinary crime either. For the first time since anybody has known this, there's small children. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Small kids under the age of 3 have been murdering their parents.
What?
Yeah. So that's becoming an issue too. And when you have problems like this, right, that's certainly for a Christian to see, because the world's not going to be bothered by something like that. They're always going to they're always going to say, well, that's coincidence. We always face these things. No, we don't. And when you say, are we near the end? It's a very sensitive subject to me. There are some things ingrained in me. I can't get rid of them, right? And the same thing, if we could take time and collapse time, we'd have another take on life. I mean, God has given us no more than about 80 so years of life.
Right.
And believe it or not, that is just enough time to work out our own salvation without the interferences of everybody else. But it reminds me when Christ said, he was talking about the Sadducees and the Pharisees, and he said, you guys can discern the face of the sky, but you can't discern the signs of the times, right? Signs of the times. He said, you can discern the weather, you can discern this, you can discern that, but you can't discern the signs of the times. Now, this is something that the Sadducees and Pharisees did not have in them, and the reason why is because they were always looking for evidence. When somebody's out there looking for evidence, they're always going to deny you're in the last days. But for those who are spiritually filled, they understand that we are in the last days. And what didn't Jesus say? No sign. It's a wicked and adulterous generation that seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given but the sign of the prophet Jonas.
Right.
So the world, if somebody believes in Christ, but they take the world's attitude towards prophecy, they're not going to have a sign. They're never going to have enough evidence to say this is it. They never will, unless they humble themselves and begin to receive that spiritually. They're going to always think these days are normal, and that burns inside of me, because that's precisely what I've seen too many times by dreams and all sorts of means. The same thing happens in war. The same thing happens in overseas when we used to see cities get toppled. Nobody believed it was. You couldn't even warn the people. They'd say, no, that will never happen here. 24 hours later, they face devastations. Well, guess what? The world is poised right now for that to happen again, and people are not aware of just how close they are to their own personal end.
How dangerous is the situation now that we have the media in Russia laughing? I watched them. They laughed. They giggled about hitting New York City with this huge nuclear bomb that they said would wipe out the entire city. And they laughed and giggled about it. And, Mike, is it because they are reveling in this ideal? Or do they hate the West so bad? Or do they not realize the danger they're in?
No, they hate the West so bad.
Yeah.
Pastor Paul, you know what? The hatred of this country, the USA, is at its highest level it's ever been at, right?
Yeah.
They call the average person in America arrogant, right? It's what they call them, arrogant. And they just don't like the U.S. Even in Russia, they make jokes about someone acting like an American. That's a it's a very degrading joke to somebody in Russia. It's very offensive, and in fact, it's all over the world. So the USA right now, when your whole neighborhood does not like you, right? You make a wrong move or move of overstep your bounds, you're going to have consequences. Right now, we sit right here tonight. Likely, nobody can actually feel any impending doom for themselves, but I tell you, people have to keep in mind, when a nation is hit by a missile or something like that, all throughout history, no one really expected that. No one ever thought of that, which is why you have casualties, which is why it's so shocking and surprising to people. Just like in the Ukraine, Pastor Paul, they never thought Russia would go into the Ukraine.
No.
They never thought it.
No.
In the entire 2 months leading up to the Ukrainian invasion, you had I was certainly talking about it. You were talking about it.
Yeah.
I knew they were going in there.
You
but
said
those
they
who
would.
were sitting in the Ukraine, you know what they said? Oh, that'll never happen. He'll never do that. Even Putin said he would never do it. But it was almost like talking to a rock. Right? You couldn't tell people, you couldn't convince them that, yes, this thing is going to happen. 100% it's going to happen, but they won't believe it.
You
Just
said,
like right now.
You said, I asked you, and you said, yes, they're going. You said it 4 years before. You said, yes, he will go ahead and take the rest of Ukraine. He is going to go back in. And I remember leading up in the last few months before, you said, yes, 100% he's going in. Matter of fact, a couple weeks ago I said, will he use a nuke? And your answer was, yeah, 100% he will. Do you still feel that way, Mike?
Yep, I sure do.
Is he going to use it in Ukraine, or do you think he's going to use it on a NATO country?
He's going to have to neutralize any responsive countries at the same time. He's going to have to neutralize them. So what's happening now is we have a buildup of anger happening in Russia. I don't think that the average person in the USA would believe the anger level in Russia. They would not believe the hate level in Russia. I know a lot of people think that, well, this is contrived, like 9/11. And they'll say, well, it was a false flag. Let me say something about a false flag. People still die. It's a tragedy, whether it's a false flag or not. In fact, everything is a false flag because everything starts on the false pretenses.
There you go.
But people still die. And right now, Putin has armaments he has not brought out to the world. If I hope that the folks in the Ukraine have not deceived themselves. Putin could flatten them anytime he gets ready.
Yeah.
Any moment. He does not need any naval forces that anybody has ever seen. Putin has another fleet out there, right? Any ship that somebody has seen from Russia is not his main fleet. His armed forces, they don't travel around in BMPs and personnel kit, those old T-class tanks. No, they're using something else. In the air, he has hypersonic. He has some of his old aircraft, but he also has Gen 6 tech-based equipment out there, plus hypersonic drones, hypersonic guided missiles. We don't have a defense against hypersonics. The lowest speed of a hypersonic missile to be classified as that is Mach 5 plus. So you're looking at something that will begin its travel at about Mach 2.5 to 3, like the Patriot system, and then travel up to Mach 12, 13, and on higher.
What?
You can't intercept something like that. A bullet couldn't even intercept something like that, and we know we have an issue with that. So, and China, likewise, they have also perfected some of their comms equipment. Let me tell you what would happen if Russia launched a hypersonic missile, right? China could take control of that missile and guide it in certain places. They could just totally confuse the enemy. It could also launch its mini pods out from that hypersonic missile, those projectiles that come out, and they can hit up to 26 different targets by one hypersonic launch. China could take control and hand it right back over to Russia or several other nations who also have the same ComNet, communications network for that. So, I certainly do hope that people are not deceiving themselves, because it's building up to a crescendo, and it's not going to be a pretty one. But none of us should ever think, when you're talking about the end, there's a problem that we have. Something I've seen for a long time, Pastor Paul. It is this: people always seem to think that everything is going to happen at one time.
Yeah.
No, it's never happened like that.
No.
Never happened like that. Each person, they're living their life, but they're not promised tomorrow. No matter how good they are, no one is promised tomorrow.
Right.
So everybody has to be ready today to go. And I guarantee you, at least 80% of the people who believe in Christ have things undone. And God has given us enough time in this hour, in this day, to do those things. We can't afford to put anything off. As we see tensions rise to new levels in the world and wickedness among governments really take its toll, like this, like our missing food and all this. Well, we can discuss that later, but
Are you
all
serious?
these wicked things are happening, right? And we have to really take our lives serious, because in truth, 5 minutes from now, the news could change, and one of the cities in the USA and in Europe could be hit simultaneously. It'll take approximately 9 minutes from launch to impact. There's not enough warning time in that. There's just not enough warning time.
You said something a few moments ago that Russia could fire off a Mach 5 hypersonic missile with multiple warheads on it, a few, 3, 4, whatever, and China could intercept it willingly. This could be like a baton handoff. And I used to run track. I used to do the four relay. This is 70 pounds ago when I could run track. You would hand it off, right? Are you saying, shouldn't this be, I mean, we all sit back and we play our little risk games, on the board. Yep. We think Russia's attacking this. We're not thinking that there is a coalition with technology to grab one and throw it this way, or grab three.
That's right.
Are you saying they are working? Right. Are they working together like that, Mike?
It's already worked out. The equipment manufactured in Russia, some of the propulsion systems that were perfected in Russia are in China. The guidance systems that were developed in China that used to be Gen 4 type guidance systems are now Gen 6, and they are in Russia. Iran has the same thing. So they have CNC in Iran, and they can most certainly, if anybody launches, China, if North Korea, yes, as I said, North Korea or Russia launches any type of hypersonic projectile, Iran can take, if they hand it off to Iran, they can take control and do whatever they want to do.
Iran?
This is the world we live in right now. It is it's very advanced when it comes to communications and some of the new weaponry that they have. Now, that's just by the air. We're talking about hypersonic projectiles nobody can see. But under the water, there's a brand new development underwater. So you're not talking about something that's going to go, 30, 40 knots in the water. You're talking about something that has a cavity bubble in front of it that travels in the ocean that you also cannot intercept because it's traveling with a cavity bubble.
A cavity bubble?
That it takes water, right? And anybody who studies fluid dynamics, they'll get this. It takes water, and it almost throws up a type of vibration shield in front of the water, moving it out of the way. So the path of that projectile is cleared about half a mile before the projectile ever gets there, which increases the speed is classified, but it's over 100, 200 miles an hour underneath the water. So, that's a problem. And Russia has already demonstrated that they can launch pods, their little torpedo pods, right, that can stay in the oceans for years at a time. No one in them, but they are nuclear pods, multiple pods that can stay aloft for years and then hit their target at a predetermined date. So if no one should be arrogant. We should be taking this seriously. Unfortunately, Satan is behind the whole thing, right?
Yep.
And as a Christian, I always have to stay grounded with revelation, with the Word of God.
Amen.
And be reminded that Satan, he's the one coordinating with anybody who's not serving Christ Jesus, they're serving Satan. There is no in between. And so if these guys have not dedicated their lives and their works towards the Messiah, they're working for Satan. And in these kingdoms, all of it's being designed as an assault against faith, period.
Yes.
Period. It's an assault against faith. No matter how bad it looks or how light it looks, it's an assault against faith. Now, I hate to say this, Pastor Paul, but you have a lot of people that are teetering. They're teetering right now. They're almost ready to throw in the towel. And it really, I know I'm finding myself fighting harder and harder and harder for people so they can keep that faith. Right. But then you have a bunch of new ones coming in. Right. A bunch of new people are coming in and on fire.
Yes.
Offending some of the ones who have been here for a while.
Yes.
And that takes a balance in prayer. It's a spiritual battle, but it's also a very physical battle.
Yeah.
And it's about to escalate. It's really about to escalate because America, I'll say this tonight, everybody better get ready for another leader in America. Everybody better get ready. And it's not anybody's familiar with.
Are you serious?
Yeah, everybody better get ready for a new leader in America. It'll be more of a council than an individual.
Whoa! Wait, are we going to restructure our Constitution, or are we adopting something new?
We're going to see some instabilities. We're going to see some instabilities.
Okay. So it's going to require
instabilities.
It's going to will this bring? Is it going to be bipartisan?
No.
Okay.
No. It's going to be something a little different, and the reason why is because I don't know if anybody's looking at some of the escalations in the world, but they are hitting everybody financially, economically, right? The food situation is going to a new level. If anybody out there understands what's happening and why the Ukraine is key to what they're doing, because they're going to use this to their advantage. Some of the black soils enrich farms and things like that, right, that are shipped all over the world. Well, guess what? They have already denied usage and transport of nitrites all throughout the U.S.
Right.
So none of that's going to travel this summer. And it's already been taken over, which is why
So do you think we're going to have a military, the only thing I can think of is that we have 4 generals that are on, the Joint Chief. I mean, we're going to have some kind of military administration for a while because of something that may happen. I mean, We're going
to have irresponsible individuals that should never be named as a leader. They're going to become leaders. How's that sound?
That worse than what we got going now?
Oh, yes. Some people who should never be named leaders. They don't fit the category. They just simply cannot. They shouldn't be in that position. They will be in those positions, plural.
Mike, we're on the world with us tonight, and the question is this the end? Well, he just threw something out that plural, worse than what currently the situation we're in, and shouldn't be in those positions, making huge decisions, I'm sure, life and death decisions. Maybe even regions will be decided. I know whenever there's horrific situations, people sometimes decide, we're going to have to let this one go. We're going to have to sacrifice this one to save the rest. That kind of thinking is bad, but sometimes it's necessary. It has to be done, or the whole ship goes down. Is that kind of what you see happening? Is it because of Planet X, or is it war? I mean, what causes it?
Part of it is due to just the season we're in right now. It's very unstable. Even by scientific views, it's becoming very unstable in space. The Earth is unstable regarding the atmosphere. They know we have a big problem with the atmosphere. And, everybody's trying to dance around that issue and not tell the public anything, but it's becoming obvious. The public is now starting to inquire to things like the Weather Channels, being bombarded with questions as to why, this severe weather phenomenon is taking place. And of course, when the fires begin, they're going to get worse when they begin. And we have that topped off by some super events, weather phenomena, along with geological nightmares. When this stuff really takes a toll, people are going to be displaced. And when this happens, some of the anger that's in people right now, right, there's a lot of people angry. They're divided right now. Now, it takes one event to trigger people. If they have to move out of their homes, they're going to say, well, all is lost. I may as well be who I'm going to be. And we're going to see the behaviors of many people. It's going to outdo anything we've ever seen in history, because people are going to throw caution to the wind. If you're going to have, but this is the uncovering of darkness. It really is. Because a lot of people who don't care about Christianity a lot, they're going to show themselves to be exactly what they are.
Right.
But then you're going to have people who do care about Christianity,
right,
who you thought were heathens, and they're going to come to that side. But we're going to see an unveiling in people, a very quick one. Many of the older folks had to be gone before this season began.
Yeah, yeah.
I said this once before, that everybody's not meant to be in this season. And there were a lot of older people who were very genuine. They carried a message, and they trained up specific people for this time.
Yes.
And that time people were looking for. They were looking for this a long time ago. We are in this season. We're in the middle of this season. And things are going to take off. It's going to be very confusing. But what a person has to do is kind of step back and look at time, not in the scope of 20 years, 30 years, or 40 years. But see what's happened over the last 200 years and really take a sobering view of what has taken place, because we have peace in America right now, but nobody else does, right?
No.
Nobody else has peace. And so everybody else, there's an urgency in the book of Revelation. But in America, because we're not at war with anybody and nobody's, bombing us, we think, well, we have time, things haven't happened yet. It's because we're looking from inside of our homes, and we have to step outside and take a look at the whole world. Revelation is for everybody, not just for, one little country. It's for everybody. And so we're a bit further than what we think, because starvation is happening.
Yeah.
People are starving to death. Children are starving to death.
How bad is it in Mariupol? How bad is it in Mariupol right now in Ukraine?
It's bad. And it's about to get a lot worse, because now they're going to use the Ukraine. This momentum that has started, right? You're noticing they're diverting. They're making commercials for the Ukraine. They should be out in a couple of weeks. They're making commercials. They're going to start telling people that the food supply chain is further interrupted because the farmers don't have what they need.
Right. Fertilizer. Yeah.
Right. So, and then, but the contracts and some of the government contracts and the DOD and all these different mandates that have come down that will essentially kind of divert things this summer is going to really show that we've hit a brand new low as far as morality, because they're going to do this. They're going to continue to degrade and eat at this system, because what everybody needs to realize right now is that it's not like it used to be. and it's not going back to what it used to be. Everything has altered. It has changed. And the only place of safety is a cornerstone called Christ Jesus.
Amen.
For his guidance and
Amen.
leadership. I hear a lot of people, they say, well, we need this in this country. We need that. No, we need Christ.
We need Christ.
And what we really need are some spiritual leaders.
Amen.
Right? Some
Amen.
leaders to actually start to lead people in prayer for once
Yes.
nationally. Things like that. We don't need another politician or some expert in world systems, because that stuff, it's not going to work when you have the majority of people who are immoral. Even the Constitution passed, Paul. The Constitution works, but for a moral society.
Exactly.
A society with conviction.
Right.
It does not work with a bunch of criminals. It does not work with heartless individuals, and people's love is waxing cold. It's just getting cold. People, they don't care about each other anymore.
What is going on in Shanghai? Well, first of all, why? Why is this happening in Shanghai? Is this an experiment of abuse, or a experiment of control or cruelty?
It's the uncovering. This is the uncovering of what has always been. You know what? A lot of things people are beginning to notice that are being told past Paul, they have been happening, right? But under the veil of secrecy. There's been massive suppression, right? There have been gag orders put in place, and people simply could not speak about certain things. Well, nowadays, everybody has a phone, and everybody likes to talk in social media. And so they try. You have 2 or 3 people that will tell the truth, and 200 or 300 that will embellish a lie, right? So it's difficult to extract what's actually happening. Spiritually, you can, of course, but this is an uncovering of works, of things that have been going on for years. It's kind of like a lot of people these days, they're starting to find out things about each other, right? And they're saying, oh, I can't deal with that guy. Well, if we look at the truth of that, because I'm saying this because we're about to see a lot of it, there's some, let's just say that somebody has planned an uncovering for the world, right?
Yeah.
And that uncovering is not a joke. It's going to pit people against each other. Computers are involved. Artificial intelligence is involved. And if a Christian allows this to work, they're going to defeat themselves. Here's why. Imagine you're sitting down at your computer, and all of a sudden, all the people who ever talked about you, get the communications on your computer. Right?
Oh.
Even who it's from. Just imagine that.
Oh,
and imagine
hurt.
somebody else who has talked about somebody else in all their little secret conversations, which, by the way, were property, not their property, but property of Facebook and all these companies that were out there. Imagine they get all the bad communications, right? So everybody is now reading the communications of people who call themselves friends. Now, a guy like me, I don't care about a person's past. I don't care what people said about me yesterday. I'm concerned about people right now, not yesterday. So it's not gonna bother me any, because if I heard a guy like me and I didn't have my grounding, I'd probably say the same thing. So it's not gonna bother me. But a lot of people are going to be broken up by this. Mm-hmm. And in this time, Pastor Paul, just think of how devastating this will be. In this time, can you imagine how many people will let go of their faith? How many people will be defeated?
Is this part of the great falling away? Do you feel like
it's
the uncovering, or what you keep calling it, the unveiling, is about to be done or is being done? Do you feel like that will help, or that causes, not the main cause, but it helps cause the great falling away?
I believe it will, because it's very real. I mean, even seeing the framework of this operation, right? To see the framework, nothing is going to be missed.
You've seen the framework? Have you seen? Is this an operation?
This isn't something that's made up. This is something that's unavoidable. It is unavoidable. The only component missing was AI, because it's the only type architecture that can route everything in their proper points.
Pull it all together,
For example,
and boom.
AI can determine a person's identity from 2 emails. Right? It needs no other information. It'll match their language, dialect, usage of words, and everything else against everything else, and it will pinpoint that person, right? So you're looking at a system that can identify you by the smallest of things, and it will, in fact, identify everybody. And then everybody's going to know who said something about them, right? This will be part of a I guess you could say a digital purge or something, that they'll come up with something, but this will most certainly take place. Now, it's going to cause people to be very hurt is the problem.
Yeah,
and when they're hurt,
angry,
when people are hurt like this, That's right, because how many people, Pastor Paul, right now, it's just like people who smoke, right? If a person says, well, I'm going to stop smoking because of this person or that person, and then they find out that person betrayed them, well, guess what?
They
They're
go back
going to start
smoking.
smoking again.
Yeah, they go back to
because
smoking.
their reason was founded in people. It was not founded in anything of truth. It was founded in the values of somebody else, which can always fail them.
Yeah.
So when this thing goes worldwide, then we're going to see an uptick in a lot of chaos.
So in other words, it's sort of going to be like a massive leak of people's personal information that will cause an absolute manifestation of just chaos. Because
it will.
And there'll be little wars going on. I mean, among people and organizations and companies and
oh yeah,
it'll be nasty.
Yeah, because in truth, people have a habit of speaking their mind.
Yeah.
Certainly in these days, and everybody said something derogatory about somebody.
Yeah.
When this stuff comes out, they're going to find out that people are not so forgiving. It will break up relationships and everything else. And believe me, it's been tried on a small scale. It's a pilot test that's taken place, and it is absolutely devastating.
So we're on a collision course with 2030. And when you look at the United Nations, it's called the Global Sustainability, the Agenda 2030. Included in that is Agenda 21, depopulation, getting rid of meat. Everybody got to eat grub worms and grass and weeds. Depopulation meaning sterilization, more birth control, abortion, institution marriage is being ripped all to pieces. Perversion is being increased and promoted. We're now, it's called youth attract. We're going to a whole level of perverse and darkness.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
we are.
and so I have to be careful how I say and what I say, but we get the point. Here's the thing: violence is getting worse. This man goes into some woman's house, chops her up, and carries her away in a duffel bag, and we're infatuated with it. We're infatuated with it instead of saying, what in the world's going on? What is this evil that's come upon us? No, we're infatuated with the story. We need Nancy Grace to analyze it for us. Maybe Dr. Oz or Dr. Phil. You know what I'm saying? What's wrong with us? We need Jesus, don't we?
Yeah, that's one of the major problems, though. People still think they can find their solutions within mankind. They're still looking. Everybody's looking for the perfect representative, and Satan is utilizing that, right? That's something God told us never to do. He said, cease ye from man whose breath is in their loins.
Amen.
But I guess to me, Pastor Paul, sometimes it's so painful because when you find out things, when you discover things and see plans and notebooks and study policy and things like that, you begin to find out that there's an evil behind just about every major move that people see.
Are you worried about Bilderberg Group? Are you worried about Bilderberg Group or Bohemian Grove?
You know what? Not really.
Okay.
Not really. I'll tell you why. Okay. They're like a glove, right? Mm-hmm. These people are like a glove, and they're bound to something spiritually. It's what they are. They have their ceremonies. They're bound to something spiritually. Just in case people don't know, most of the people that I can't name names, but there are a lot of people. Just about everybody knows. They look up to some of these folks. Their deity is not
ours.
The Father.
Not ours.
No.
Right.
But you know what? You know what's so terrible is that discernment does not work very well with these folks. I know that for a fact. It just doesn't work. There are a lot of people who look up to these folks now, and they just don't know who they are, which, no one gets a penalty for that. The issue is, if we're not looking towards the Word of God and God's representatives, we're messing up already. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal because we've handed over our trust to flesh, not to spirit. And so, almost when this collapse begins to take place, and it's not going to happen like people think, Pastor. It's going to be ugly because we have lost control of the government, the influence of justice, the influence of morality, the message of Christ among many, right, is being pushed into a corner. It's almost like people cannot see Satan fighting the gospel of Jesus Christ, right? We're about to see the Old Testament go right to the top of the chain, but the message of Christ is going to be put out everywhere. is going to become very unpopular and very difficult to talk about. But everything else will be okay to talk about, because this is an assault on the Messiah and his message itself. And when people they gravitate towards this stuff, they're going to be in a time so devastating. The earth is starting to crack now, right? We're going to we'll talk about this further probably when we do our interview thing, but we have a problem in the Atlantic, which is going to a brand new level. And that's not going to take another year. That's just not going to take a year. We're going to have water woes. We have critical water problems coming. We have critical atmospheric issues coming for at least, a few regions around the globe. The sun, one time I stated before, the sun is going to have activity outside of its norm, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. But as the sun gets worse, this is something for people to understand. The sun doesn't need a flare. It does not need a CME to destroy the earth. All the earth needs is to have its magnetic field weakened.
Okay.
If the sun were silent, if the sun were at minimum, do you not know it can destroy the earth without our magnetosphere?
Yes.
Specific strength, you know that? And so we have our magnetosphere is dying. It's crippled, it's full of holes, and it's starting to fluctuate in ways that is unbelievable to a lot who study these things. The sun doesn't need any additional influx of radiation to really fry the earth, but the earth is protected by that magnetosphere, right? And just so happens the human brain is tied to the magnetic field lines around the earth, and it seems like as it changes, so is the minds of many people. People have no defense. If something happens to their brain or their flesh, they're going to respond because they're used to responding by flesh. Well, we do have magnetic issues, right? Magnetic anomalies taking place right now, and they're getting worse and worse and worse. And the trend line is just going straight up. Now, of course, everybody will deny it until they can no longer deny it, at which point it's going to be too late to do anything about it for anybody to prepare themselves for it. But it's happening right now, Pastor Paul. I've seen projections as little as 10 months before some spot on the earth is absolutely fried by the sun.
What?
I've seen that projection. So now the projections, they don't look so good, right? They do not look good and we're not talking about the whole earth. We're talking about regions. Suppose the magnetic field lines diverted away over top of Canada. A spot in Canada, right?
Okay.
That spot in Canada will be fully subjected to solar winds, and it will fry. It will just fry.
Is it because of the Earth tilting, or is there a hole in our magnetosphere? I mean, what's causing the let it in?
We have several. The magnetosphere comes from what is theorized as a dynamo, right?
Okay.
Now, a lot of top scientists right now, well, some of your top scientists who also believe in God the Father, they don't believe there's a dynamo in the earth anymore because of data that came back at the beginning of this year. Something else is going on with the earth. Let's just say that the earth is a bit more than what anybody ever thought anyway. But that dynamo, as it moves, it creates a magnetic field, right? Mm-hmm. But when that dynamo, if it slows down, if it stops, like it's done, I think 19 times, they said it has reversed 19 times, the magnetic field lines go away. There's nothing to sustain them, right? There's nothing to sustain them. And so during that reversal period, which lasts about, I believe it's 7 days. The sun's radiation normally vitrifies all the dirt. It comes in close proximity, or the sun shines on. So when the daylight comes, it fries everything that's exposed to the daylight. And true to form in history, when you do the real archaeology, you start digging up things in these sheets of glass that go for miles. They found those all over the place, not just in certain regions of the desert, but all over the earth.
Okay.
Even in Ohio, they're digging up layers that have been vitrified, right?
When you say vitrified, does that mean they've been
glass.
So it's the heat was so intense it just turned the earth, the dirt, the sand, the glass, just
the silicon, the silicates in the glass. Yes. So it's evidence of that all over the earth.
Okay.
So these things have happened multiple times in the past, right? And it's always associated with a change in the magnetic field lines. And the way they tell that is every time like right now, the Earth is somewhat polarized with the sun. So when you have minerals in the Earth, they're going to have their field lines are going to be they're going to be parallel, right? Then as you keep digging, they're going to abruptly change, right? Magnetite's a good indicator of this. That is always it naturally has a form factor, and it reverses as the field lines reverse. So if they go down so many feet, they see it reverse, go down, a couple, maybe 100, 200, 300 feet, they see it reverse. And so we know we've gone through this multiple times.
So what
and it's coming
causes
again.
that? Okay, so you're saying 19 times that we know of, our Earth spinning reversed, the magnetosphere.
Yes.
I mean, doesn't that just like disrupt everything? Like, does the ocean water
Yes. Yeah, it causes a boil event, really, because without the magnetic field lines, the atmosphere is no longer contained, which means you have pressure fluctuations in the Earth. If the pressure changes, water could boil at 70 degrees, right? So the ocean waters would begin to boil, and that means large displacement of water and other things would happen.
Right.
And what they think happened was, Pascal, when something external is causing the magnetosphere to reverse about 3 to 4 times for each passage. Not just one time, but 3 to 4 times for each passage. Kind of like a wobbling effect. When something goes by of great, force, right? As it goes by, the Earth will change its field lines about 3 to 4 times, hitting a stop point between those 3 to 4 times within a 7-day period. So that's a severe wobble, but it also recreates and destroys magnetic field lines. So that's absolute and utter, atmospheric chaos in that case. It would also explain why they have found bees feeding on plants that were frozen instantly, right? Why they can dig up animals that still have food in their mouth and they're frozen in position. They also dig these things. They found those things. That's an instant freeze. And the only way that can happen is if the atmosphere has a hole in it and all that cold air from space, or let's just say the absence of molecules, right, from space comes straight down and it will freeze anything in its position. If I were standing underneath one of those holes, right, within a fraction of a second, I would be frozen solid, just like that. I would have no time to run or anything. If I had a smile on my face, that's how I'd be froze, just like that for however long it would take. But this has also happened in conjunction with the reversal of the magnetic field line. So this is all this data that's been accumulated over the years, and they're publishing more and more of the truth. It's just that the truth sometimes is so far from what people have been used to. It's odd or strange to them. The bad thing is, we're at a time now where it's all coming back again. That cycle indicates that we're in the window of those events right now. Not coming to the window, but we're in the window of those events.
Let's talk about that window. Is this the end? So 2030, somebody set this agenda. We've been talking about it now for about 20 years, maybe 25, publicly. Is this the window for some reason? Scientifically, do they feel like this is a window? I mean, biblically, I can look at a lot of things and could fit a lot of stuff in that window. But what's the issue about 2030? Is that a New World Order stake out there that they plan? Is that a benchmark?
All things are timed by external sources.
Okay.
For example, some of your high level wicked folks will always say that the cosmos is a clock that never fails.
Okay.
And they have to prepare by that clock. And it's also strange that spiritual things also accompany that clock, right? Now, I know God set everything in position to tell his word. The cosmos tells his word. The word came first, and then everything else came secondary to tell his word.
Yeah.
They know it as, on these, of course, they worship Lucifer and all his crazy stuff, but they really do count on the cosmos to indicate to them when they should do specific things. And so that's just the way they work. And they are in contact with something. That's a fact. And that's an absolute fact.
Contact
they've
with
been
something.
in contact with something. That's an absolute fact.
Contact with something.
Oh, yes.
Extraterrestrial or extra dimensional or.
Well, you know what? There's really no difference. I know a lot of people. Look, there are a lot of people who think they're nice and friendly folks out there, right? But I'll tell you this: I have an interest in the folks down here. In my lifetime, I've seen things I don't ever want to see again. Unfortunately, these bad people are used to it. They're in communication with it. They take orders from it, suggestions, and everything else. They're dominated by it. It's almost like they're highly possessed to the point where things manifest in front of everybody. I do believe in the story of the fallen angels, and I think that's what we're seeing. But here's one of my biggest issues is this. This is based upon my own personal life. I don't think those things are coming back. I think they have seeded humanity already again. I think they've done it already. I think that their children or their offspring or their influence is already sitting in high positions. I think that people should really focus themselves into putting Christ on the chair of kingship in their lives and remove everybody else. And just, it's good to pray for your leaders. You can never go wrong doing that, but nobody else should sit on those pedestals because discernment, in the Bible it says, be careful to entertain strangers because you entertain angels unaware. And that's not always a happy message. Right? To be careful to entertain strangers. Entertain means when you're in the company with, that could be a warning. And if it's a warning, that means discernment is not working too well.
Right.
Because how many times have we been fooled by bad people we thought were good?
Oh, my Lord.
If a person can fool us like that, how are we going to discern something that is spiritual, hidden beyond the veil? So there are things already in position.
My dad says that. Sometimes I get on the phone, I'm talking to him, and I'll say, well, Dad, let's just pray for our leaders. It says, he goes, yeah, I do. But he said, sometimes I pray they be removed. He said, I can't pray for somebody who's got a reprobate mind. Okay.
No, that's one way to tell them too, because they've but you know what, Pastor Boss, that's something a lot of people don't know, that God gives people over to a reprobate mind when they have no redemption left.
Yeah.
When they believe that wrong is right, God has given them over. There is no redemption for them anymore because they are in truth in league with those things. But that's precisely what we're facing. And due to the confusion that's coming, the Ukraine is part of it. People are seeing something form now that's not just going to go away. It's going to change how everything operates. What they see now is going to change how everything operates.
Yeah, it's a global change that is happening as we speak. And it's not good. It's not good. If it was based on Christ, like you say, if it's based on the Bible, I'd be all for it. But it's not based on repentance. It's based on greed or obsession with Satan, murderous slaughtering of the innocent, what have you. It seems like it fuels this fire of evil that we're living in today. A couple of questions, Mike. The Holy Land is getting very, very intense. Are you concerned about what's going on there right now? Is there any relation with what's happening there with what's happening in Europe?
Oh yeah, it's a breakdown, Pastor Paul. It's a clear breakdown of they're setting up shop, of course, in one place. A brand new kingdom has risen, right? Yeah, it's risen. And it seems to be taking on the spirit of a very ancient place. But anyway, it's risen. And you have a lot of people pouring everything into that. But even that place is perverting Jewish stability, I'll say. It really is starting to pervert it because they are not going to serve just one master in that place, right? You still have that strong Muslim influence in that place. Yeah. Of course, they don't allow crime. They don't allow any of those things. So then anything goes. And you know what that sounds like to me? That sounds just like King Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, where everybody worshipped whatever they wanted to worship so long as they worship what the king said to worship on occasion, right? That's what it sounds like to me. But during this time, you have Israel under deep pressure. And the UN is not doing Israel any favors. No. In fact, the UN has put handcuffs on Israel. Yeah. And Jerusalem is target number one. I would say that over half of Jerusalem is already given away. It's already given away. They've
Wow.
already done it. In other words, they have no authority in that place. And
Yeah.
it's a real fight with the UN. The UN is going to continue to, by their little peaceful agenda, tear down the walls of Jerusalem itself and undo anything anybody would attempt to do. In a right way, they're going to tear it down. And they're doing the same thing to their influence is actually causing the USA to go upside down, right? When we yielded to the UN, and of course, everybody has to get the permission of the Pope. But when we did that, all these crazy laws began to pass in this country. And then when that happened, that's when we had the true left and right split.
Yeah.
Right? And I can't say this. The reason for that split is a moral split. It's you have one side that still has morals. They may be a bit crude and abrasive, but they have morals. And, of course, they're aggravated. And the other side is saying, no, let everything fly. Okay, no, don't ever do that, because that's exactly how the beast destroys people, is through peace. And what is their main message? Peace and what? Security, which means peace and safety.
Yes. And when they say that, when they say peace and safety, First Thessalonians chapter 5, then sudden destruction. So we're here. This, again, the question is this the end? It isn't a light switch in one moment, but this is the end in process. Would you agree?
It is. I think we're seeing the sprinkles from the storms, just like in the days of Noah. Wow. I can't help but to imagine those people. Oh, it's sprinkling, no big deal. Let's keep doing what we're doing. And then it continues on from there until the flood. When the flood came and they could no longer stand anywhere, that's when they cried out for mercy. But God shut the door on the ark. Noah did not. God did.
Yes.
So there we go. And you know what? He's going to do the same thing in this time. So I hope that people are sober and serious, because, our time could be out tonight. Right. My time can be up in 5 minutes. Anybody's time, we're not promised tomorrow. No. So somebody's rapture is going to be in about another 15 seconds. And we have to keep that in mind so we can be sober and ready always.
Mike, this is some incredible information tonight. I think that, when we look at all of these things, it's a collision. It's a convergence. Would you say we're on a convergence of the coming of Jesus Christ?
Yes, sir.
And these end time appointments are being met. Prophecy is being met, isn't it?
It really is, Pastor Paul. And it's there's no way to really, in this short of time, to describe the details of how bad it really is. But for the first time ever, I can truly say this: without Christ, people are going to understand they're going to die. Without Christ, they're going to die. There's just no hope. Going to the other side is not going to save them. But without Christ, they have no chance. He's their last. He is the last true protection a person could ever have. No other.
In your life or in your profession, over, let's say, where you were at 25 years ago, and what the things you observed and saw and how things operated, and how they are operating today, is it scary to even look and see the info that's coming your way?
It's disturbing.
Yeah.
It's disturbing. Here's why. You know why it's disturbing, Pastor Paul? Because now they're showing people. They're actually beginning to subtly tell people, this is what you're headed for. And the people are saying, so what? They're not even interested. So long as they can watch some drama on television, they're okay. They're not interested in the what people died for things they're telling people now, right? People spent their whole lives trying to warn their children and get everybody prepped. They died for the message they had. Now that message is being given out today and nobody cares. That's disturbing. It's almost like you can't get a person to look at something soberly. You just can't. They'll hear for 5 minutes, and then something else takes their attention, and it's done. It's over with.
They're ever learning
anymore.
Like Paul said, they're ever learning, but they're never able to come to the knowledge of the truth.
That's exactly it. That's the most disturbing part. But the declarations, yes, they are. It really does hurt the heart to see declarations that a person cannot change, right? There are declarations that have been made, let's say against mankind, that no one can change. No one's going to change that. No wonder Christ has to come back, because if we could do it, he would have put the power in us to change it, but we
Right.
can't. And so we, he's coming back himself, and we have to make sure that we're not caught up in the devil's vacuum with these kingdom things that are so incredibly, they're just deceitful at best. And it's but you see people giving over to this stuff, and it's heartbreaking to a degree. It's heartbreaking.
Mike, I appreciate you coming on tonight. I mean, this was a powerful, great info tonight. Just really eye-opening. This is the end.
Well, Pastor Paul, it's always an honor.
It's a great honor to speak with you. We look forward to seeing you next week, Mike, and can't wait to see what your message is going to be on that webinar, Overcoming Evil. Wow.
Oh, I'm excited for that. I really am. I'm excited.
Amen.
Excited.
Good night, Mike. Thank you so much, brother.
God bless you, Pastor Paul.
God bless. Bye-bye. This is a difficult thing.
Yeah, you took YOLO out of the picture. So
Mm-hmm.
You're live right now.
Let's see if I am live.
Yes, you are.
Are you serious? Am I live right now? Okay, we're trying to find that out. We're having a little bit of technical issues. Pastor Paul, wake up. Pastor Paul is awake.
So can you hear me?
Can you guys hear me or see me? I think so.
Issues.
I think we're there now. Don't you?
Yep. You're coming in.
Testing. Or see me. Okay, good. Good. My screen is super small. I had to change the background real fast. And Steve Quayle's trying to come in right now. If I can find Steve Quayle.
Is he coming? He answer that.
Steve, is that you?
Yeah, Paul. I don't have another link yet to connect to you for the YouTube.
Yeah, I see that. We sent it, but it's not sending for whatever reason. It's kind of weird. Hang on. I got you on phone. Let's just go with that right now, because for some reason, I think my Zoom is still converting from the last one.
Yeah, this is a cell phone, so I don't know that that's going to work very well.
My microphone.
Why don't you do this? Can you generate a link and you just tell me both the link number, and I'll hook up on a Vimeo, like the link, and password. Can Brock give us one of those?
So go back to your email.
Let me see if we can. Okay, let me see. Let me end this, okay?
Yeah. Well, you kind of want that open, but
That one wasn't working anyway.
oh, send me another one.
Send him another link. But what to, though? The Zoom is not working.
Pull Zoom back up.
Yeah, I just need the meeting ID,
Yeah.
Yeah, pull it back.
and then the password, and we can do it that way.
Now go
But you guys have to generate it.
This meeting is being recorded.
Say continue on that.
The recording has stopped.
And then go back to participants.
Yeah, I know how to get it, Brock. I'm just telling you.
It
It didn't do it last time,
Try it
but
again.
we'll try it again. Maybe it will.
You got it? So now you go
Yeah,
back to your
let me
email.
go over my email and see if I can send it. Hang on, everybody.
Compose a new email here.
Compose an email. Send this to Steve.
There he is right there.
777.
Yep, I got you.
Okay.
So
Here comes the Zoom link. I'm getting ready to send it. Right
put it in the field
now
and send.
and send.
Hopefully it sends.
Okay, now I got it. Now, so
Okay.
let me try it.
Okay.
Okay. Hold on. Allow. Joint video call.
I think it's gonna work.
I think it will work. Let's see.
Yeah, just wait for Steve there.
It keeps saying launch meeting. Allow. I hit allow. Let's see if this will do it. And this says this meeting ID is not valid. Please check and try again.
Yeah, I think it is. Hang on.
Click on that.
You want me to try that? Invite? I want to try a different invite.
See if it gives you a new link. A better
Yeah.
link.
Let me try another one, just one more time. It's either that or it's not letting me because it's still converting the last one. But we'll see. Let me try this.
Go back to your email.
Let me try one more email here. See if we can get it this time. Let's compose. Let's send this to Steve.
So sorry, folks.
We'll get Steve on here, folks. Hang on. Okay. Zoom.
Zoom again.
And here it goes. Hopefully this works. It should. I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, it worked the last. Did Heidi send it to you, Steve, last time?
You just sent me a link that said click on it and it showed up.
Okay, I just sent this one. Did it come through?
Let me see it. I'm looking again. Paul Bagley Zoom. Let's try this one. It came through twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if this one will do the first one. I think this is it. Okay, you can see me now, can't you?
Aha, I see you're coming in. Yep, hang on.
You got to switch it, so please wait to me. This will let you in.
Yeah, I'll get you in here. 1 second. Okay. All right, we're going to make it happen. There you are. Okay, wait. Turn that off. For whatever reason it's doing that. I don't know why. All right, Steve, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you, but I can't see you on the screen yet.
I don't know what's up with that.
Can you hear me?
But we can hear you, and we can see, see you. But we can hear you through the. Let me turn off the phone, okay?
Okay.
All right, now let's see if we can hear you.
And you can hear me now?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear. So don't worry about me right now. I'll figure that one out. But folks, we're glad we got with us Steve Quayle. And
Pastor, can you hear me?
Yes. Do you hear me? Now he don't hear me.
Okay, so go back to your Zoom.
Okay, wait.
Unmute your mic, yeah.
Your microphone is muted, Pastor.
I know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, but I can't see you.
It's okay.
I might fix that here. Give me 1 moment. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll fix it right here. All right.
There we go.
Technology. Well, we recorded, folks. We got Steve Quayle with us tonight, and we recorded already his session for the webinar Overcoming Evil. And we're glad to have you with us tonight, Steve. How you doing tonight?
Really good, Pastor. And we got to talk about the famine in the land. The scripture is very clear. A famine for the word of God precedes a famine for the food, literally, of God. This nation, our national anthem, when God shed his grace on us, I mean, from sea to shining sea, now there's war against God. We have the major newspapers of America vilifying Christians, saying they want to do away with God, the Democratic Party. And we're undergoing the biggest drought that's going to manifest itself in the coming months that the United States has ever seen. That's going to result in famine. And you can't go into the New or Old Testament. Starting the Old Testament, there are 87 references to famine in both the Old and New Testament, at least in King James. And one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse is obviously famine. And with famine comes death. With death comes pestilence. And it's astonishing to me that we're seeing all the ramifications. You know, people argue over whose prophetic chart is right. You know, what time does this happen? What time? I won't post any stories on my website, Pastor, that people say, are we facing the end time? If they don't believe that we are, then I won't post it. Could this be the fourth horseman of the apocalypse? If you don't know what a horse looks like, if you don't know the color of a horse, don't write any stories about it. And some people get so offensive. They want to kind of, if you will, walk the line, but they don't want to step in to that place where they are confirmed in their faith and they know that they've heard from the Lord. So let's talk about the food factories and manufacturing facilities and processing facilities. I believe it's close to 20 or 21 now that are being burned down, or planes crashing into two of them. I don't think people understand this. It's at the point of distribution that everything in the distribution chain goes empty, goes dry. And let's just start this out with one of the most controversial statements that can be made, but also the most honest statement, I believe, is that what happens, brothers and sisters, all the listeners, if the shelves don't get restocked? What happens?
Right.
What happens? Go ahead, sir.
Well, what does happen? I mean, because as I've heard you say, June the 1st, you think we're going to hit a danger level for food on the shelves of America? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying there will be no food on the shelves of America. Again, ladies and gentlemen, the passion for the devil to destroy mankind with all available means, and he's had a long time to see what works. The most effective means of destroying a group of people is to basically make them think everything's all right. It'll be better tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, everything is better. It'll be better tomorrow. Well, by the time you're at the seventh day and everybody's starting to starve to death, everybody wants to punch that person out and say, but you told us it would be better tomorrow. And to quote a name for a movie, famous movie, but what happens when tomorrow never comes as opposed to the resupply of shells? I remember, Pastor, you and I were in Branson at one of our True Legends conferences.
Yep.
You heard me say it. The word normal would never be used
I
again.
heard you say it. It's 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. And then I made the statement, the word selection will give way to availability, and the word availability will give away to basically pass away, and there'll be nothing available. So when you hear, Klaus Schwab making the statements he's making about the globalist reset, here's one of his statements. The COVID-19 outbreak is the first big step towards unprecedented control over mankind. Well, what people don't understand is the World Economic Forum was orchestrated by Henry Kissinger and John Kenneth Galbraith. Look his name up, Galbraith. It is the extinction of the human race. And I just don't want to pull any punches, I think I'm too reserved, Pastor. I don't want to pull any punches.
Okay.
If people don't understand that you're going to be starved, if people don't understand, especially on the West Coast, that Lake Mead and Lake Powell and a lot of the lakes in Lake Shasta in California, they're bone dry or soon to be. And when you've got 40 million people out of water, you got 40 million people that are going to have to move to live. And so it's important. And again, this is not just a pitch for this DVD. Mega drought, the annihilation of the human race accelerates.
Right.
The two most precious commodities. You can, by the way, go on Vimeo and look this up, mega drought. I think, and from people's feedback to me all over the world, and obviously it's easier for people to not download it, but view it on demand on Vimeo. I mean, they're seeing this happening in other countries, not just the United States. So what is happening with everything that's food related is basically being initiated by the globalists who are, in my opinion, absolutely destroying the West by supporting the Ukraine and putting all the sanctions on Russia. Russia controls the fertilizer, 30% of the grain. Russia controls the natural gas and oil. Most people don't understand the oil refined products that the world buys from Russia is a big deal. You don't fly jet aircraft without jet fuel. And people don't understand when you cut off one supply of oil, this was explained to me by an engineer, you don't just take West Texas crude and then substitute Russian oil. The refraction process and the processing, sometimes you can take 2 years to gear up a refinery to switch from one batch or one, if you will, molecular component of oil to the next. So what's going on right now? We're watching farmers being absolutely robbed of their water, and the whole Gavin Newsom, in my opinion, I call him Gruesome Newsom, is doing the best to destroy California's productivity. And if people don't understand what comes out of California, not just the evil, obviously not just
a lot of our food, a lot
of our food, and then 68% of our produce comes from Mexico. Right. And guess what? Mexico's not exporting it. Everybody knows that they're going to need their food. And
Yeah.
let's even go to palm oil. Let's go to Indonesia, that all the oils that they supply, cooking oils, they're basically not exporting it. So you're going to see things like olive oil literally go faster into orbit than, let's say, hypersonic Russian missiles. Prices are going to be priced out of most people's reach. 60 tons of hamburger. And I've tracked this now. And I actually know people that know who gives the orders to seize this stuff. 60 tons of burger. That's 120,000 pounds. Ladies and gentlemen, if each one of those pounds represents one meal for, let's say, a couple or a family of four, even when it's mixed with Hamburger Helper or whatever it is, I'm not promoting the brand. I'm just saying spaghetti sauce, whatever. It's going to starve the American population out of one of the greatest bounties we've ever known, was plenty of food, affordable food that put us in a productivity mode better than any place in the world. By the way, most people don't understand this. When Mao Zedong came to power in China, he came to power on a simple promise: a bowl of rice for every Chinese citizen, a bowl of rice.
Yeah.
And now we're dealing with people that are not so nice. And the World Economic Forum is saying, you don't eat meat. You're going to eat gruel. You're going to
Right.
eat bacon.
Grub worms.
Yeah, bugworms, you know. And you know, you're going to eat insects. It's kind of like Marie Antoinette saying, let them eat cake. And they're saying, let you eat worms, you know. Or more importantly, let's let them eat food that's been fertilized by human DNA through hydrolyzed human corpses, you know. And I think it's beyond critical that people understand this.
Now, we just got Brock.
Go
Brock just brought this to me. His wife just called him. She just went to the store, and one package of chicken tenders, which usually cost about $4.50 tonight, is $12. $12. Yep. I'm expecting bacon. To believe it or not, folks, that you'll go to a restaurant, sit down, and when you go to order something, bacon, it'll say market price. Do you see those kinds of days coming, Steve?
I think they're here.
They're here.
Yeah, to correct you, Pastor, I don't see anything coming when it comes to famine, when it comes to price explosion. It's here now.
Yeah.
And again, to put this into perspective, a week ago, over the weekend, the following Monday, Germany's food prices rose 50%. What people don't understand is they don't get the increases in their purchasing power. So the West, okay, and by the way, the West is the embracees or the embracers of all of the World Economic Forum horse manure. There's more horse manure coming out of the stables of the world from these political, what I would call cretins, than any place in the history
Amen.
of all horsemanship. And the thing is that when I'm being told, hey, eat worms or, you know, eat worse things, the bottom line is, and they're going to be feasting. And if you ever seen the menus of what these guys feast on, I mean, it makes the five-star restaurants embarrassed. Because remember, the Darth Vader little brother, Klaus Schwab, Dr. Evil's Dr. Evil's twin, I could care less the accent he speaks in, but you're going to own nothing, and you're going to be happy.
No.
Yeah, listen, you son of hell. You know, the idea is this: the only truth that the world will recognize are lies. There's no context of the truth being in the narrative of the world. There's none. So when I talk about SMM squared, that's mainstream mass murdering media, or I should say MSM cubed, okay? Mainstream mass murderers. Because again, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to be told it's for your sake. I ask everybody that's watching this in real time, what was coming out of Ukraine that's benefited any American citizen? All the weapons going into there are being sold on the black market. How do I know that? There's stories already out about, we don't know where it all goes. Well, what doesn't get bombed by Russia goes into the black market. and people sell that.
Same
And
thing.
at the
Isn't
end
that
of
the
day-
same thing happened in Afghanistan also during that debacle?
Absolutely. I mean, when you got, everything from jet aircraft to the state-of-the-art spec ops radios to night vision to, just the premier weapon system, if you don't even know how to use the stuff, there are people that will pay you for this stuff. But all of it is centered around food. And food is disappearing, 120,000. Pastor, I've monitored this stuff, and I have a lady that sends me, God bless her, sends me all of the recalls. Not one person, to my knowledge, has ever followed up a recall. Suspected E. coli. Well, most people that understand beef processing or chicken processing or any type of processing know that each lot has its own lot number. So where is all of this food going? Number one, it's going out of the diet of the American citizen. Number two, it's going into the hands of the elite or the army of the elite. It's going into the deep underground military bunkers. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, your ration coupons won't include any of Nancy Pelosi's 31 flavors of the most expensive ice cream in the world.
No.
I'm flabbergasted,
Well, are we looking at, Steve, two classes of people? The ruling class and the slave class. Isn't that really where that's what communism is, and that's really what this new world order is going to be. It's the beast, the biblical beast, right?
It's the beast. And we have become a technologically decadent nation. And I coined a term a long time ago, 20 years ago, tech-necadence, okay? Tech-necadence is technological decadence. Some people are calling us digital serfs. I also coined a word 20 years ago called techno-serfdom, where technology would turn human beings into serfs. And then I said, those who are allowed to live. This is the terminated mindset of mentality. And by the way, there was an article I posted today that anybody that won't make the jump to transhumanism, in other words, allow themselves to be absorbed into the Borg, okay, if you will, the collective global mind thing, they should be done away with. They should be destroyed. So, ladies and gentlemen, famine is one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And we're not fixing, I said this, we're not just fixing, we're not approaching, we're not getting ready. It doesn't matter what your theology is. If famine is in us and among us now, we're experiencing famine now. And again, from the book of Genesis all the way through the book of Revelation, it's interesting. The word famine shows up. The word famine carries through. And what is critical, Pastor, is even farmers are being paid not to plant this year's crops. I know in Montana, for instance, fertilizer went from $200 an acre to $2,200 an acre. A friend of mine, dear friend of mine, basically said, Steve, my rancher friend is getting rid of 2,000 of his 2,500 herd. He said he can only handle 500. 2,000 head of cattle. I went down the Yellowstone River, our highway, Interstate 90 to Billings, Montana, Pastor.
Yeah.
The thing is like a trickle. We used to have drift boats come in here. We had some of the most famous fly fishing in the world. Our rivers and streams, again, we talk about this, is that people understand the Missouri River originates in Montana, and we're at 50% snowfall, and rainstorms do not fill reservoirs. Lake Mead took 35 years to fill. It's within 5 feet of being shut down, water going to the West Coast, and power. Same thing with Lake Powell.
Are the politicians, are the ruling class, are they addressing these things? I mean, is there meetings going on? Does the public realize the danger we're in?
No. Every time I take a glass of water, especially ice, I say, thank you, Jesus, for the water. I'm purposely being grateful every day for fresh water. I get my shower. I say, thank you, Lord. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's a refreshing that comes from the presence of the Lord.
Amen.
But the elite are geoengineering the weather. The elite are manipulating everything about climate. 300 weather control patents. 300. Everybody hears of HARP, 4686605. Please, those who are fact checkers, go and check me out. the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project that was originally stationed in Gacona, Alaska, built by Dr. Bernard Eastland. That was his patent. And now there are 72 of those around the world. So what we're getting is a reverberation effect. And the U.S. Air Force wrote a decade ago, maybe almost 2 decades ago, a statement, and they put it out into a pamphlet, Weather as a Force Multiplier. We own the weather 2025. Well, that was a lie. They owned it back then. But every nation now is making war. So, ladies and gentlemen, and this is interesting, I believe that as to an area's sin or their rebellion, so is their specific judgment. And we talk about it, Pastor.
Yeah.
The scripture says it. It'll rain in one place, it won't rain in the other.
Right. It does say that in the Bible, folks. It says
And,
it in
and
the
we've
book of
watched
Amos.
even tornadoes. How can it be that a tornado goes through and wipes out every single building in a town, and yet there's one standing? And sometimes the one standing has got a Bible with a page open, you know?
Right.
And that's happened, I think, 3 or 4 times that I know of. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's my pleading with you tonight. Thank you for having me on, Pastor.
Thank you.
You can't even imagine to put food into terms of cost much longer. By June 1st, it will be a different world. Why June 1st? Because if this is the field, if this is the livestock, if this is everything that basically goes to the next level, which is processing, which then gets packaged, that goes to the next level, running out of hands, that goes to transportation, that goes to the final level, or the second to the final level, food distribution. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the planned starvation / annihilation of the human race. And when people get mad at me for using those words, annihilation, extinction, I wish I had a stronger word. Pastor, I don't know stronger words than that.
Right.
Extinction and annihilation. And I think the tragedy is that most people who have been shut down and shut up for basically 2 years, maybe 2.5 years now, 2 years. The point is that not only do we undergo solitary confinement, but it destroyed the entire food chain, transportation, everything associated with it. So where does that leave us, ladies and gentlemen? It leaves us with perpetual empty shelves. And here's what I want to ask everybody. This is an exercise in, I would say, reality dealing mindset. What happens to me, to you, to us, to the American people when the shelves are no longer restocked? Well, the answer is there'll be a black market. A black market will exist for food. How do you then exist in a black market? And what happens when Christians, and this is already planned, everybody, are by our social credit scores, are denied food and denied calories and denied access to everything, because the price of participating in the World Economic Forum's global reset is to deny Jesus Christ and embrace Satan, embrace the fallen angel hierarchy expressed through humans. And in essence, ladies and gentlemen, only God can feed us in those days. And I believe those days are accelerating upon us. Like you and I talk, Pastor, where did the last month go? And if you can't even get the last month, and I mean, I'm talking about me now, where'd the last week go? You know? And the Bible is very clear that God is shortening the days for the elect's sake. Because if God didn't shorten the days and bring an end to evil, and I don't know how he's going to do it, but I do know this, when he does it, no one will go, do you think that was God? They will know that they know that they know.
Amen.
And we're now facing I would say this, a drought that is so perilous that I lack the words to define it. In my film, Mega Drought, I want everybody to know we filmed the biggest lakes, reservoirs, and rivers in the entire Pacific Northwest.
Folks, let me say, this is Steve Quayle with us. I want to welcome all 5,000 of you that are with us live right now. That Steve, if you go to stevequayle.com, stevequayle.com, his Mega Drought film is there. You can purchase it either DVD or download, through Vimeo, and go to his website. Go to stevequayle.com, and this is an incredible film. I mean, it's done so professionally. I mean, we're talking about drone footage, helicopter footage, thorough information, very thorough. And you were on, that was a year ago. You made that a year ago. And you talked about the food shortages and the things that were coming, not only from the droughts and the extreme weather conditions, but folks, now look what's going on. It's a manufactured famine on top of that. So Steve,
and also just even today, Pastor, in the last 2 days, okay, they have found a species of tick, T-I-C-K, that when it bites a human, the human cannot process protein.
What?
In other words, meat makes you sick. That came out of, and for those of you that are...
Steve, you still there? Uh-oh. Steve? He's froze. I'm still there, but he's froze. We'll see if Steve comes back. Steve Quayle, folks. And this tick he's talking about was genetically modified. But what it does, it bites you, and then you then can't digest protein. Now, no one's going to claim credit for this. A new genetic modified, genetic, Gen. No, I don't think so. Anyway, this tick will absolutely. It's some kind of new genetic tick, but where'd it come from? Okay, there's so much modification going on. There's so much of this taking place that, we've lost Steve Quayle tonight. Well, look, there's not much we can do there. He hit a nerve. Apparently, he struck a nerve, and it's going to affect everybody. Well, anyway, go to his website. That's stevequayle.com. That's www.stevequayle.com. All right, we'll have him on again. And I just filmed him. He will be, obviously, Steve is on our Overcoming Evil webinar, and his presentation is amazing. I want to tell you that right now. Brock, you heard the whole thing. He blows you away. He'll blow you away. You think you just got blown away just now. You want to get your ticket for that webinar, Overcoming Evil. Matter of fact, you can go to our website to get that, okay? Okay, I think this is Steve. Okay, hang on. Steve, is that you?
Hey, Pastor, they just hit me with something and knocked my internet off.
Yeah, I think you struck a nerve with the ticks. Something.
And I've learned exactly that. When they shut me down like that, that is the nerve. Yeah. And when I said Plum Island, I believe, and here's my exact quote when they knocked me down. Remember, it's not what you see above ground, but what you see beneath the ground that counts.
Yep. Well, Steve, thank you for coming on. I think everybody, they all loved everything you were saying, and we're sending everybody to stevequayle.com. They need to go there.
Just tell them, if you wouldn't mind just saying it, Steve hit a nerve and they completely whacked my internet. I mean, with a power surge. I heard it.
Wow. Well,
yep.
Okay. Brother,
okay.
Stay safe. Stay safe, Steve.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Also, due to technical issues here, but it will work. Mike from around the world. How are you tonight, Mike?
Pastor Paul, give me a second and let me hook something up here, okay?
Okay.
Give me just one moment.
While you're doing that, we're going to make sure they can hear you good and me, because I have to do it a little different tonight than I normally do due to some technical problems I'm having.
Okay, mine's about to change just in a second.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay. We'll hold on, folks. I'm on True Social. For those that want to join me, I joined True Social about 2 weeks ago. I've got 470 followers. Of course, True Social just now getting off the ground, and you have to join it. You have to have an iPhone, but soon the Androids will start working, as Donald Trump is working hard to get his hands.
Basketball, how do you hear me?
I hear you good. We hear you, I think, pretty good. Folks,
great.
let me ask the people, can you guys hear Mike from around the world? Let's see what they say here.
Hopefully they can. 5 by 5. Good to go.
Wow, he's loud and clear. All right.
Good to go.
All right, Mike. Hey, it's great to have you here tonight. And I don't know if you caught any of Steve Quayle's conversation. But
I did. I caught the end of it right when it was cut off, and I want to say I'm glad he is back. I'm glad. You know what? It's so funny, Pastor, because a lot of people, when Steve Quayle was sick, a lot of his people that did not like him started coming out saying, well, he's going to die, right? They can't say anything else because he's back.
He's back.
That's so awesome, but listen, I haven't really tracked anybody out there, and I just looked into some of Steve's work. He goes way back there with Angel Tech and Giants and all this stuff, and I think that's pretty awesome. That's a testament to someone's persistence and vision concerning whatever the Lord gave him must burn within him. And so, that's another voice in these last days that people certainly need. And, I'm just glad he's back, glad he's healthy and back. And, darkness cannot prosper. If God wants you here, nothing can take you out. So, well,
I'll tell you what, I appreciate you saying those kind words about Steve Quayle. And you're right. He has done tremendous work for a long time, and he's been way out ahead of the cutting edge. Because God gives him vision, he sees it happening, Yeah,
that's a tough field, believe it or not. I know I'm kind of like that. I have no choice in what I do. I have no choice. And sometimes when you speak years in advance, well, you're a crazy person, right? Until, things start to take place. It just so happened in my case that, people listen. They do listen. They listen to Steve also. Steve has some allies in high places. He does. He has some allies here. So he's not totally abandoned. Of course, there's some mean folks out there. There are, and they like to protect what they have. But there's looking into some of the people on the internet. There are a couple that really stand out. And I should have looked up these folks earlier, but I didn't. This is the first year, Pascal, I have ever listened to anybody else. Do you know that?
Really?
First year.
In fact, I know you've been hanging
at the beginning of this month. You've
been hanging with me. You and I, we've been, I think, almost 9 years. About 9 years, and I can say this, folks, without a doubt. And most of you who have been with us for several years, you know this now. Mike, when Mike first come on the first year or two, he brought some stuff out. He was out years ahead, and he was telling stuff that was coming. And I'm just shaking my head saying, where in the world is he coming from? And then I would say, and I was getting email, oh, this guy's nuts. What are you doing, Begley? Who is he? And the Lord said to me, this is a servant of the Lord that I have sent to you. And the words he speaks are words of truth. And as things develop and start to manifest, the people will eyes will open. People will become believers in the Bible and in the intel and in the prophetic word that is spoken. And so it's been 9 years, and I think a lot of eyes are opening, Mike, and I appreciate it greatly.
Yeah, that's I'm glad. I'm glad because what? Let's face it. There's a lot of death. There's another death wave coming, right? And so everybody who is informed about these situations, what could potentially be, they're not going to be overtaken by way of the mind. It's going to be scary for just about everybody. But those who have been informed, they can adapt, and most importantly, they can still help other folks in the ministry. Right, they can still carry the gospel without folding up themselves. So that's a very if they listen, if their hearts are in it, to be of usage in this time. Because I'll tell you, there's no other time like this time we live in where God is just pouring things out. So if He can pour out to me, He can pour out to anybody.
Amen.
Right? And so everybody has that opportunity right now to really represent the kingdom in a very powerful way. We're not just talking about words. We're talking about works, actual works. There are things manifesting in this time that didn't exist since, the apostles. And it's pouring out big time. I mean, it's pouring out heavy.
Mike, as we're talking here, we were talking with Steve about the rationing, the shortages of food that looks like is going to hit on a global scale. You told us 2 years before it happened that the shelves would go bare, that some of the items some of our brands that we like would just disappear and never come back. Steve Quayle is giving us some intel. He has received that by June 1st, there will be major shortages on the shelves of America. Do you have any information on that and
Sure.
beyond?
I have a small section of something I think that everybody needs to be aware of, right? Because sometimes when you're talking about food shortages, people begin to, look in history and say, well, we've gone through this before, this, that, and the other. No, we live in a very different time. Everybody remembers fifth generation technology, right? The implementation of 5G actually went out, and the commercial side of 5G, of course, is with your cellular devices. But as I said before, this 5G network is for machine-to-machine communication. And so what type machines do we have out there? Most importantly, most of the money is being spent in one area right now. It affects food, right? We're talking about artificial neural networks for food. And what I'm saying is this: the entire food industry is about to go into the night, is about to go black, is about to go dark, which means the human element in the processing of all foods is going to be removed. Now, to understand where the shortage comes in, right? That's what I want to talk about, Pastor Paul, because it goes hand in hand with some of the mimicry that AI has been producing for the last couple of months, right? A lot of people, when I did hear Steve talk about recalls, right?
Yes.
And all these elements feed back into these neural nets. This adaptive neural fuzzy interface system, ANFIS is what it's called.
ANFIS.
That's ANFIS.
What does that mean? Artificial neural.
That's adaptive neural fuzzy interface systems.
Okay.
Right. And what they've done is they've taken essentially fuzzy logic and artificial neural networks, and they have taken elements of both, and they have created a master system. Now, what the system does is that it will mimic an individual by way of your taste, your sense of desire, how your brain utilizes certain proteins to process food. In other words, this system can refine food to keep you barely alive.
I mean, so are you talking rations? You're talking rationing.
Essential living.
Central living.
Essential living, meaning there's a lot of things in food, right, that they're wasting money on, right? For example, if you have a chicken out there, why would you feed a chicken, something that the human body doesn't really process or need? So just eliminate that. Eliminate a specific component from the chicken, and you save money, right? And you can also produce chickens at probably half the cost, right? If they have disease or something like that, the machines will manage that. But they essentially begin to reformulate the processing system of all foods, all of them, which takes humans out of the loop. It won't be a person checking the chickens out. It'll be an artificial intelligence machine, one of these fuzzy logic systems. By the way, they're already doing this for every establishment that's torn down, broken down, burnt down, destroyed. Another one is going up. And so these systems create a more accurate, they say trustworthy food processing system. They're taking over everything. So let me give you the real deal behind it, Pastor Paul, because it's amazing how this thing was implemented before COVID-19. At the same time, the food shortage started to really, show its face. And of course, now we're having food shortage issues by way of farms and growth. Of course, they cut the farms out, right? The train system, the white cars are being spotted all over the place.
Yes.
In fact, there are 2 areas where they're being stockpiled, that they're being stamped and, fixed up, painted, because they're about to start food distribution in a specific way. But these systems use detectors and external systems, right, to check your diet out. That means they're in the sewage systems. They're in the water systems, right? All these sensors are. They are in the stores. All your medical data is going to be bounced against some of the fuzzy logic to see how human beings are actually doing, right, with the food. I'm telling you right now, they're going to cut the cost of all foods, right, down to about 10% of what it is now, because I'll say it again, it's called essential living, which means they give everybody who's living what they actually need, not what they want, what they need. We're going to have a very different food system coming up. And yes, this is another control mechanism, a big one, that's coming in right under people's noses. And it's I would say it's 60% established right now, 60% established. So we're talking, I know a lot of people used to talk about genetically modified organisms.
Right.
That does not hold a candle to what these guys are doing. What I'm telling you right now is essentially people go into stores. They trust the name they see on the package. They have no idea how that food item or that product was produced. They trust it. And that's where the failure point is, because they'll go ahead and buy it. Anybody, and when you control a person's appetite, when you tell them what they can or cannot eat, that's the ultimate control mechanism. Right now, we live in a world where you cannot grow your own food successfully. You're not going to do it. You're not going to get away from GMO anything.
Is that
genetically
why
modified organisms are in the clouds? They're in the rain. They're in the
right. They're in the clouds.
They're going to touch everything it touches.
Mike, is that why when this the mandates first hit, that the governor in Michigan she mandated that nobody could go and buy seeds to plant their own gardens? And what was that about? I mean,
Think about that. They're locking the entire food industry is about to go in the night. I'm going to say in the night. I don't want to use that word dark or black because that causes issues. But they're going into the night because they have machines that can smell, machines that can taste, right? They actually have artificial intelligence mimics the human brain as far as taste and smell. So they can give you food that you can tolerate. And believe me, it's going to be customized per state, because every state, every region has a different way they taste things, right? So if people notice right now, they're seeing some strange packaged food coming out to just about everybody. Right? They're different. They're brands you never heard of before. You don't really know where they come from. But these packets, they have health packets that are going out. They're going to start going out too to supplement what's been missing off the shelves. And all this stuff is being produced or manufactured internally. In fact, it's going to be worldwide. It's not just going to be here in the U.S. This is a global system that's online right now.
Now, Steve Quayle made the comment and that social credit scores will determine the rations of food. Is that
absolutely? We talked about that last week, Pastor Paul. We were talking about how they're going to throw the whole credit system, right? It's going to be, if you notice, most of the policies that will come out are going to cancel debt, right? People are not going to like it. It's going to happen anyway. Debts are going to be canceled. But you're going under a social score. Why? Because the government is truly about to turn corporate. The government's not going to be what we've known it to be for so long. There's a new entity that's already in operation, and it's starting to rise. It's more like a council, not like a single president or somebody like that. This will ultimately lead to the fracturing of the states, because a lot of states are going to divide themselves. And when they do this, when they separate, right, they're going to be starved to death. You already have governors who are putting their states in order because they know it's coming. They've been informed. They know it's coming. And but they're going to be starved. They're just not going to be, their people aren't going to be fed. They're not going to have munitions or anything else, which is why certain people are stockpiling. So there's a clamp coming down. And the reason why it's coming down is because the excuse is the earth is falling apart faster than anybody ever estimated, right?
Right.
And they're going to use this to their full advantage. The Ukraine war, they need this war. That's a useless war, is what that is. It's very useless. And the reason why Putin is so, listen, you can read a guy. It's not hard to read anybody with the machines that they have right now, right? I'll tell you this. If a person does not have the Holy Spirit, you can be read so easy. It's not funny. They know what you're going to do tomorrow. They know how you're going to respond to any given situation. Right? They already know this. But if you're filled by the Holy Spirit, that disrupts the mechanism. Right? So there's going to be no.
Well, Brock has brought up a point, Mike, and he's saying, what about the hunting, fishing, and foraging? The people who have these skills, will they have an advantage over the
Because
people?
well, they will. But here's another problem. I think people underestimate what's happening right now. We have a drone highway that's finished in the sky, right? We already have monitor drones that are flying all over the place, and we have weapons all over the world. This is what people don't know. They have special satellites that can detect all metals. All right, so everybody knows this. They know where all the metals are. Guns are made of specific metals. Munitions have specific items in there that can be tracked. Okay, they can be tracked. Everything can be tracked every single second. So they know where anything that's metal, even special ceramics, special polymer plastics, they know where all this stuff is by satellites. They are triangulated. So when the clap comes, because of safety, right? Listen, because of safety.
Always
and AI
because
phone
of
calls
safety.
and
Yeah.
the drone highway, you can't go out there with a weapon. Right? You can't go out to certain places that are not marked for clearance of occupation because of drone safety regions, right? They're doing this. This is already happening in a couple of places. I can tell you right now, hunting has been canceled. Fishing has been canceled. Why? Because you have to be cleared in these areas or the drones are going to peg you. Right, they're going to ping you, and if you get pinged by a drone without proper identification, you're going to be a target. Right, this system is going into full operation. Why? Because of cyber problems.
Well, okay, so all right, time out. Okay, so what I'm getting in my head is that you're saying there's already a drone highway up there, and yes, everything's got a microchip in somewhere, so all goods and services are being tracked no matter everywhere they go. Okay. And people have cell phones basically, so people are being tracked everywhere they go, and all metals being tracked. So if you go out hunting and oh, by the way, haven't they been? The government has been declaring certain large amounts of woods and forest and areas as national property, or I should say federal land. They've been doing land grabs across America, haven't they?
Yes, they have. I know a couple of people who went through that, and their property, essentially, they had to surrender their property.
So are you saying, Mike, that the drones will be able to monitor everything? So even if you say, well, I'm not taking the chip, I'm not going to be chipped, you can't find me, they'll follow the food where it's going.
Yeah, even if you're not chipped, people underestimate how sophisticated these systems are. These systems right now can see everybody they don't have to be chipped. They can see everybody. Okay. They have your bone prints. They have a 3-dimensional bone print of everybody. That's the one thing in a system that changes very slowly over time. So they can always identify you a long distance away, because the chances of two people's skeletal systems being the same is slim to none. So they can track everybody by that, right? Every scan in the grocery store has helped along with this. That IR scanner is far reaching. Right? That can be demonstrated by anybody. They can scan your item, but somebody can stand 3.5 feet away from that counter and interrupt that ID scan, that laser scan. Okay, so people should know this by iPhones, right? By facial identification and security. But so what's going to happen now, though, Pastor Paul, is we're going to have a cyber problem. It's up and coming. I hope everybody's listening. A cyber issue is going to force a cyber clamp. Right? With this cyber clamp, because with this cyber issue comes terrorists. Hope that everybody is listening. It's going to come terrorists. So you're going to have breaches. You're going to have more and more breaches, but you're ultimately going to have terrorists that will do physical damage. And when this happens, everybody's going to have to be identified on their whereabouts. Your cars, anybody who bought a car past the year 2017, you're already ready. Your black box is in your car. It's already transmitting. It's already doing everything it needs to do. It can already be shut down by satellite. So can your power. So can everything else be shut down by satellite, because we wanted more advanced technology and faster internet, right? So everything is ran kind of like a cloud system, right? Even your data, the data that you saved to any computer that was made past 2018, sure, it goes on your computer, but it's also going right in the air to a central cloud system, a central analytical system, a cloud system. So everything in your system is mirrored. Right? A 24 terabyte hard drive may cost you a lot of money. It costs 3 cents to transmit that data every second, 3 cents a day to transmit 24 terabytes every second.
What?
So just think about that. Just think about that.
Whoa, wait a minute. So that means everything of everything is being tracked, but it's not that expensive for them.
No, it's not. It's just that people live this life where they believe everything is expensive and everything costs. Like an iPhone or something like that. That's sand. That is sand and forged materials. A lot of recycled materials. Very little silver. Very little gold. I mean, it's microscopic. A cell phone could cost, probably cost them $8 to make. In truth, $8 worth of material, because it's a bunch of sand and gasoline goes in with that price. And then you go into the manufacturing process. They're working off machines that use recyclable energy, right? So it's not costing a lot to make this stuff. The engineering costs money. They want you to pay money because that's part of the economic law.
Oh, the R&D. The R&D.
It really is.
Yeah, the R&D, the research and development to help get it up and going. But then once it gets cranking, it's rolling. So, all right. So food, the way, the old style of how we've been eating.
Done.
Farmer from farm to table. That's over. And even the way we've been processing food, these food processing plants, that's going away. It's going to be a much more sophisticated, tightened up, and rationed out and based on credit scores, and that's going to be because they're going to be watching what we say. I mean, I saw just yesterday they formed a new speech. I forgot the name of it. It's a council, some kind of governmental council to watch all of our speech. Forget the freedom of speech. They're going to manage phone calls, text messages, emails, all going to be analyzed.
Yeah, you know what? Freedom of speech, what is that? Because since, 2004, when everything was digitized, everything was being, analyzed, and people could not say what they wanted to say. See, here's what people are forming opinions based on information they've been given, right?
Yeah.
If somebody argues about a politician, they've been given that information by somebody, the politician, and what he does, right? To the public is one thing. What that politician does behind closed doors is something totally different. So, in fact, people are living in two worlds, and they're ultimately they're buying whatever they see before them, right? It's like living by flesh, not really spiritual, which is why anybody who has any sense of discernment with any given political situation, even the government, even the militaries or anything else, there's something wrong in their spirits. They can know all the information that they could ever find, and something would be wrong in their spirits. They say, well, something is missing here. Why? Because there's a backside to everything, and that backside is never, ever disclosed, right? Nobody knows about it. They sit there and they laugh at civilians because they don't know about it. They're buying the lie. They're buying the act. A lot of people are actors, Pastor Paul.
Yeah.
They really are. They do a good job at that. They're getting paid for this, right? And so all you have to do is pay somebody to have a job, and you can tell that person how to do their job. Give them a nice bonus. And I'll tell you right now, they will take that and they'll say, no, that's my real job, because they'll defend that money. Yeah. Right? Because the bottom line is people want that money. They want the money. But, we're quickly approaching a time where the system people are used to is going to be abruptly tore down. Now, before you tear down a system, you've got to have some things in place. You've got to be able to contain civilians. So what do? You control the food. Right? Yep. Hunger is a real issue. And if you really want to make somebody be quiet, don't feed them. They will. They may not be quiet right away. As soon as they get hungry and the pains hit, that's a real issue. That's a real pain. That's something that hardly anybody can overcome, right? Famine is something that's not pretty. And Steve is right. A lot of people are about to see it on many different levels. So I'm sure he's giving, the front shore to everybody, but I'm sure he knows greater things about this famine, because it's just not good, which is why fastball in this and with everything that's happening right now, because humanity is about to go through something they've never gone through before. It is dark. It is evil, right? It is extremely evil, and no one is going to stop it. Obviously, this is just the time we're in. But all those, I'll tell you what, all those who join in with the world, right, who are in agreement with the world, they're going to suffer what the world suffers. My advice to everybody would be to back away from the world for a minute. Take a second look at everything. Weigh it against the Bible. And if it does not fit the paradigm of the Bible and what Jesus wants a person to do, stay away from it, because they're using a lot of bait tactics right now. They're trying to get people entangled in very dark things, right?
What about the medical world? Okay. I mean, you've talked about now, they want to stop us from driving cars. So they want us to drive little electric, golf carts or whatever. So, keep us contained. They're going to ration our food. They're going to do away with private property, and all of us can live in a small, tiny apartments. We should be happy with this. But what about our medical needs? And who determines who gets care and who don't?
All right, but let me back up real quick. Pastor Paul, I'm going to be bold and say, here's a high percentage that's going to happen like this. You ready?
I'm ready.
The reason why people are not going to leave their homes is because they're going to be frightened to go out in the streets. Okay, that's number one. They're going to be frightened. They're going to be paranoid to go out in the streets. They're going to be frightened. It's not going to be kind out there, right? When you find out, when you start looking into the world of prisoners, that's when you start finding out the truth. Okay, it's not going to be a very kind place.
No, it won't be.
And so people are going to be indoors with locked and loaded with their weapons, but they're not going to be outside. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's going to become very dangerous in places where it's never been dangerous before. And if nobody believes that, the pilot program has already been underway. Right? They've been gauging this for a while. It takes psychology to get people to believe a brand new script so they'll go along with the movie.
Yeah.
So people are going to back off from going out. Right now, Pastor Paul, there are more people staying in, not because of COVID-19, but because they're frightened. They're frightened of people who are hooked on drugs, who are robbing and stealing. You have more violence in schools now. A lot of people will not send their children to school. They opt for, the alternative to homeschooling because they just can't send them to school. It's too violent. And it's getting worse. You throw in cyber security problems and terrorism. Well, that's the end of that. So that's number one. Then when you go to medical, right? Everybody has their cell phone. They're going to make it a point that everybody has a cell phone. Well, just in case you didn't notice, the processor on a cell phone, right, is a very
They're handing out cell
piece
phones.
of engineering.
They're handing out free cell phones. Everyone that crosses the southern border, even everybody's got to have a phone.
Because it's a must that everybody has a cell phone, because a cell phone is your identification right now, not your wallet. Your cell phone is right. You have to be electronically identified, right?
Yeah.
They want everybody to have a cell phone. Everybody to have a cell phone. Why? Because it's essentially a big sensor. You don't have to have a mark right now. You don't have to have a tattoo right now. Your cell phone can detect, it can read your pulse. It does not have to be against your skin like an iWatch or something like that. That's easily proved. I could write an app for the iPhone that would do that same thing from about 10 feet away. I think the max is 10 feet away. So they can get your vitals very easily. Plus, you touch your iPhone all the time. But does anybody know that the casing of an iPhone is that the material it's made out of is the same? It's called Formica. Is in there, which is the same material they utilize for sensors, right? And it's also a separated case, meaning it has layers to it, and it also has wires in it. Right? So once your hand touches this thing and you start wobbling it around, it has two coils in there. And once they start shifting, they produce electromagnetic energy, which transfers into the chip, right? So they track all this stuff. They're tracking your vitals. Now, what are they going to do with that? They know exactly what's wrong with everybody. They're not treating what's wrong with you. Right? That's not what they've been doing. They've been treating people it's kind of like control mechanism. Here's how it's done. You get a doctor to go through training, go through school. You teach that doctor everything you want him to know, right? And you have some moral-based counsel behind that to tell him his do's and don'ts. So he really believes he's doing something for the people. You give him a handsome paycheck, and he's not going to question any of that because he's going to get paid for it. And plus, he's helping the people. But the truth is, once he enters that data on the computer, that the data is the criminal here. Because once they diagnose your body or something like that, trust me, they have just about everybody's DNA. If you didn't submit your DNA, somebody in your family did, somebody in your extended family did, so they have your DNA too. And they can look in your DNA and see every disease that you have. They've known this for about 13 years now, that your DNA, it essentially tells you what a person's going to have at what age. It's a blueprint to your health and the degradation of your cells, so they have the probability of the day of your death, right?
Yeah,
right
they do.
They know all this on a high level.
Yeah, I actually went through a treatment process last year, Mike, which was very, very new. I mean, I was only the 167th person to go through this to help me after the stroke. And it did help me. But I also, in that process, besides all the scans and all the blood work, they also sent my DNA off to Italy to and then from there to Israel. And when it came back, it's a book this thick. It's my DNA of my whole body. It's pages. My DNA is pages.
Oh, yes.
Looks like a computer software. And then there's a breakdown of every gene in my body. And it tells what I am susceptible to and which ones I'm not and what genes I have. And there's certain genes that I have that will make me more and more susceptible to this. And there's others.
There you go.
And they said to me, we know the day of your death. And they said basically this, we know within 4 months because of your telomeres at the end of your, what do you call those things that grow? Is that the telomeres? It's your DNA. I can't remember, but there's little things on the end, and they're shrinking as you go. And they know when you're going to die, and they pretty well know what you're going to die of if you don't get killed in an accident or something. They pretty well know, but they could come within 4 months, and they've been tracking for a while, so they know their statistics. And so I said, well, then are you going to tell me? They said, no, we're not going to tell anybody what that says. But I said, but what if? I asked this guy, I said, but what if God decides to extend my life? And he says, that's something don't have any data on. Okay. We don't know about that one. But really, Mike, what you're saying is they've already got our skeletal blueprints. They've got our DNA information. They know where we're at. They know our likes and our dislikes. They know our social score. They know what our faith is. So are we being put in some kind of global matrix for a reason?
Well, it goes along with, this is my belief, it goes along with the book of Daniel when it says, they shall mingle their seed with the seed of men. And it was talking about the kingdom before the everlasting kingdom, the kingdom that was partly clay. Right? Partly iron, part clay. They're doing the same thing again. And the telltale giveaway is that they would mingle their seed with the seed of men, but they would not cleave one to another. And here we go. If you don't cleave, that means no physical touch. That means no marriage. Back in the days in Genesis 6, they clave one to another, which is marriage, which is two people becoming one flesh. This time they will not cleave one to another. They will not become one flesh. They will not take unto themselves wives. It's happening again. And they have searched. Well, I'm not going to go that far. Let's just say that all DNA has been tracked, right? You have your gram count on your DNA.
Yeah.
In 1996, Pastor Paul, they knew dehydroepiandrosterone levels of anybody who came into a doctor's office, which also is a marker for a person's death. And so when a person came in there and their level was 20 or something like that, if they didn't know about it, they wouldn't tell them about it. One day I said, well, what is my DHEA level? They said, well, your DHEA levels looks pretty good. And I looked at it, I said, yeah, for a dead man. And the guy looked at me real strange, like, you're not supposed to do that. And so now it's moved into that DNA field.
Right.
And it deals with the GRIM project. There's a project out there. It's called the GRIM project. Israel's involved. The USA is involved. A lot of people are involved, right? And it gives what can cause your death. What can actually accelerate your death is what it deals with. And so with this think about this. That information an AI computer has access to. And the AI systems are controlling the food industry, right? You ingest food. So if they want to get you with I'll tell everybody right now, a lot of people walk around and say, they're trying to kill me. If they wanted you dead, you'd be dead a long time ago. They don't want to kill you. They want you to turn against Christ. How so? They want to frustrate you. They want to make you think. They want to make you feel miserable. They want you to curse Christ. That's the end result.
Yeah, you're right.
Because these guys, your top head of people, they absolutely believe in their deity. They absolutely believe in their deity, and they do everything they're doing is for their deity. And I'll say it again, they're waiting for the door to open. They have a mandate to be prepared. All things must be prepared before the door opens. And that day is very close. That's the bottom line with them.
Now let's talk about that door.
In the first place.
Now let's talk about that door, because you've talked about this door, this secret door. We put that over on Patreon one day because you talked about it. This door, is this a door? They're waiting for his essence. I think I heard you say the global elitists, the New World Order, they're really waiting for his essence to come through a door. Are we talking about the Antichrist? Are we talking about Satan himself, Lucifer himself? And you said that door is somewhere up in.
We're talking about the man himself, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about the man himself. Here's what they're promised, right? They're promised a prince, the earthly prince will come through that
Prince
door,
of darkness,
right?
Yes.
Who bears all of the power of the one with 1,000 points of light, Satan, Lucifer,
right?
Beelzebub, right?
Right.
Whatever you want to call him. He's going to walk through that door. Right now, they have a responsibility through technology to, how do they put it, to receive him. They have to receive him in a very special way. This was ordained thousands of years ago, and they have been working on it ever since. They've recovered just about every piece of technology they could ever find in the ancients. This includes the marble carvings, very careful marble carvings, original altars. They've got 3 altars, Pastor Paul, full of blood, full of the blood of babies. These are not just normal altars. They have to contain the stained blood of babies. There are certain sacrifices that have to take place on every single new moon, right? And they have to get an extraordinary amount of people in this earth to participate. Listen to this. This is a big one, because I believe this happens every month out of the year except one. They have to get the populace of the earth to participate in ceremonies. See, and I'll be honest with you, this is why I do not entertain myself with this worldly stuff, because, I lost it when I found out about this. This information, although I couldn't show up because I have a pretty good poker face, was devastating, right? To even have, to see a hint of it is devastating.
Is it the trick?
To learn that most innocent things are by no means innocent. They're not innocent. Most passive situations, things, entertainment, they're part of rituals. They're rituals. And people, guess what people do? People give their faith, their strength, right, over to these rituals. When they're sitting there saying, hooray, go for it. I want you to think of what happens. I know a lot of people like football, right? Just continue to watch your football, but just watch where your heart is. When people are rooting for their favorite team, something spiritual happens to the person, right? If they want their favorite team to win, there's something spiritual that happens within the person. And if they're not careful, they're going to give their all over for that team to win. And they don't even understand what they're doing, because what they're doing is blindly backing, right, somebody else's creation. God did not create football. Man did. We don't know why they did it. We don't know the motive behind it. But when people sit there and celebrate these things, Pastor, because what breaks out after a football game? Fights, violence. You don't see people paying off other people's debts after a football game. You see violence. You see bad feelings. You see weird stuff.
Right. Mike, Brock just walked in here and he gave me this before you started in on the football conversation. But the NFL draft is going on tonight. He said, Dad, the NFL draft in Las Vegas right now is using hidden symbols right on the stage. He said, here we go again. In other words, similar to the halftime show of the Super Bowl, he's saying the NFL draft tonight, there's all kinds of hidden symbols that are going on right now on the stage in Vegas as the people are blind. Are you saying that when you said the beast kingdom wants to cause the people to participate, you're saying to blindly lead them, leading the blind, right?
Well, if a person is not giving their praise to the living God, they're giving their praise to something. The question is, what is it? Right? Here's the deal. A person is always giving praise to something. The question is, what is it? right? What is it? Because if it's not going to the living God, I'm telling you right now, it's going to something in the
Yeah,
earth.
yeah,
And
you're
whatever,
right.
it may seem innocent in the earth, but just like Brock just told you, this hidden iconography, these symbols are symbols of incantation. Kind of like it's the reason why they name things Apollo, why they have symbolism on all spacecraft. Right? They have to have the incantations on there. They have to have that rite of passage. There's something going on that's very real, and people are just simply blind to it. But spiritually, they know something is wrong. They just can't put their finger on it. Right? They know it. They can feel something is saying to them something is wrong, and they can't identify it. Well, I can tell you right now, it's everything outside of Christ. That's what's wrong. And that's why people have to really watch.
Yeah.
Certainly in this time, they have to really watch, because there are tons. People a long time ago, people talked about portals. You wouldn't believe, forget about portals. These things are, people are the best portals that could ever be. And there's so many things that have come through people that are starting to take out entire families, Pastor Paul. Why would an entire family commit suicide? And why would that happen 31 times this month so far? Why?
Why?
A whole family? A whole family.
That's craziness.
No. There's something else at work.
Yeah,
And
it's
so,
demonic.
This is one of those times we really have to have our eyes
So
open.
our
Pastor,
demons.
It's good that you are a pastor, but it's also good that people begin to realize that everything in the Bible is real. It's tangible. The spiritual realm is already at work. Satan does not desire to kill anybody. He desires to kill your faith that you have towards God and turn you against if he can turn a person against their brother, they're already walking in disobedience. And a person could easily reverse that and say, nope, I'm not playing that game anymore. I will not target my brother based on this worldly information another day. And if
Amen.
they do that, they can essentially have the doors back open to blessings, and they can be free of their own problem. But the change must take place within them. It must take place within them. Anyway, but this stuff is going on, Pastor, and it's big time. It's all over the place. Hardee's, iconography, McDonald's iconography. And when children love McDonald's, they see that little M, and what do? What do they do when they see that M? They got to have it, right? But more importantly, they love it. They would defend it. Right?
Yeah, yes, you're right. It's very sad, but pop culture, everything that we're around is all leading us to worship this image of the beast that Mike is talking about. We're certainly living in the days, and what you've been giving us tonight also, huge information, is the systems to manage and lead people toward this beast kingdom worship of Lucifer and the Antichrist, the false prophet coming. And also, Mike, I'm hearing you say, not only is it able to manage us and lead us there, but it's going to manage us and break us down, break our spirit, and try to overcome us. The Bible says in Revelation that this beast will make war with the saints and even overcome them. I think it's a temporary overcoming, but there is but then, of course, we know that we will win as Christ will come and give us the boldness and the ability and to rescue us and to take us. But we're not to lay down. We're not to give in. We're to fight this thing to the end. Isn't that true? But isn't the system already in place also to identify who are the resistors and who are the ones that are going to succumb?
It's been in place since before. In 2021, the system really was put in place. You know what, Pastor? Not take up too much time, but people, just like when you said the beast shall overcome them. Well, that's very easy. A Christian wants good to be sown into the world. During the rising of the beast, good won't be sown into the world. Evil will. And in that way, he'll overcome the saints, because the will of the saints is not going to be in the earth anymore.
Yeah, it
it's
doesn't
the
mean
will of Satan. It's not that he can't
take
Satan he can't do anything he wants to do with anybody who belongs to Christ.
Right.
It's very important. It is very important,
right.
Paul, that people not be tricked.
Yes.
Right now, people have given their love to things in the world.
Yep.
They've got to withdraw it from the world, because a lot of people are out there hurting right now. And you know why, Pastor Paul? Because they're loving something in the world. And if they would withdraw, they would say, no more of that. God would, I'm telling you right now, he would open the blessings back up to that individual again. They wouldn't be so grumpy. They wouldn't be so problem-stricken or anything else.
Yeah.
They could actually stand up and do some of the work.
Yeah, I think it's
Satan desires our faith to be gone.
I think it's a great point you just made, and it is exactly the truth. When it says that he will overcome the saints, he's not saying he overcomes our faith or that he overcomes our salvation or that he plucks us out of God's hand. It means our will, the Christian way of living, our society that we are fighting to hang on to right now will eventually be overtaken by this evil. But you cannot ever, no way can the devil touch our salvation or our faith as long as we submit it to God. But if people follow the beast, if they let it, they can be deceived. They can go the wrong way. They don't have to, and that's what you're doing. You're trying to warn people. You're trying your best to warn people. Don't follow what the world is doing, okay? Because if you're a friend of the world, you're enemy with God. Don't follow what the world is doing. Stay focused in Christ.
Amen. That's my simple philosophy. That's the only philosophy I have. If it's not Jesus Christ, it's not righteous.
Okay, now these technologies, just take a few more minutes if you could, Mike. The technologies,
yeah, sure.
The technologies that they're using, this drone highway in the sky. I mean, that one blew my mind for a minute. But it's so true, isn't it? And so what about containment? Can you tell me what they're doing? Citizen containment. What's going on in Shanghai? Is this going to become more normal? Is this the beginning?
Oh, yeah.
Is this
it's going to spread.
It's
going to spread.
What is this?
Well, everything that happens in China, haven't we noticed that everything that happens in China, right, is adopted in some sort of a simulation in the USA and in Europe, right? So here's what happens. Humanity learns from humanity. And they see the outcome of what's happening in China. They're not looking at the people being locked away. They're not looking at that. What they're looking at are what is the output to the containment? What is the actual advancement that they're having in China? And believe me, if they have the smallest advancement, right, that they can also see for their own country, they're going to use it. In fact, there are so many ideas that have been adopted from China, from Russia, that are being utilized in the USA. It's not even funny. People really have to step back and take another look, because this world it really is just like a script. And soon people are going to be frightened to go outside because they know that they're going to have to engage something, or it's unsafe. People don't like that feeling of being unsafe. Right now, it may be just words. But when it comes to a person's community, it's going to change, right? Having a weapon fully loaded with ammo, that's not going to change the situation, because there are other folks out there that will have it too. And if a person, all these are points also of faith failure for a Christian. Because, I asked God one time, I said, if somebody came up to your house, are you going to just shoot them blindly because they came up to your house? He says, oh, yes, I had to defend my house. I said, what if he wanted something to eat? What if that's all he wanted? Then the guy said, well, how do you know the difference? And I said, bingo. God will never place any of us in a situation beyond that which we can bear. If we find ourselves in a situation we're able to handle it, all we have to do is follow what the Lord has given us. Right? He gave us enough for this day to establish us. So it really is a fact of choosing him in everything we do. That's all a person has to do. Am I choosing Christ in everything I do? And if they do that, they'll see where the enemy is all the time. He's hidden. He can't sneak up on anybody, because if he does, we have angels camped around us. But a frontal assault, we have a choice to say no or yes. Yes or no. And we have to handle that one. If he's sneaky and comes from the side, he can't do that. But he will always give a frontal assault. He'll always tell you exactly who he is, right? And in these situations, Pastor, like this containment coming, Jade Helm, people, nobody's talking about what came out of Jade Helm.
Right.
Nobody's talking about Walmart anymore. There's so many things that have happened that have painted a picture of preparation of what will take place. But what happens to our minds, we get so captivated by the latest and the greatest that we forget about the historical points we should have kept. Because trust me, the data from that simulation is being kept, from those scenarios is being kept. That was about domination. That's the key word, domination. That was about domination. And in fact, on most of these military programs in these operations, it's about air dominance. It's about land dominance. It's about, territorial dominance. It is to totally take over everything. That's what it's about. And how can they effectively do it? With civilians, right? Because as soon as the Twin Towers fell, so then started the civilian portion of this long-term plan, which is, how does the military, right? The military just can't go and seize everybody and say, hey, look,
No.
you've been to the new rules of government or not. Nope. They need the people to demand it. They need to, remember I said that a long time ago,
Yeah.
people are going to demand a safe place to be, that they're going to demand that they
Food.
be put in safety. You're not going to have to move a soul. They're going to say, hey, I can't live here. I need a safe place to be.
Yeah.
And then all these imprisoned, these camps that people were talking about, were seeing and investigating, they don't do that anymore. That's where they're going to want to go.
Yeah, you're saying people are going to be controlled because of lack of food and water, because of lack of safety. They don't want to go to these horrible prisons that will be set up. They're going to be tracked everywhere they go. They're going to beg. They're going to beg. In other words, please feed me and keep me safe. Just to help me. In other words, they are building a system to manage the populace, and it will be a two-class system. The ruling class, and it's almost like the Hunger Games. Almost, it's that kind of mentality. But it's really out of the pages of the Bible. It is Revelation. It really is.
It really is.
And
if we could just open our eyes and see it, because Pastor, didn't they, just not too long ago, it was defund the police.
Yes. Now they're begging for safety.
Yeah. And what were the people saying? I need protection. I need my store protected.
Yep.
I need to be protected at home, and this, that, and the other. And they were like, we need police to keep me safe. So we heard the cry, and people are going to hear this cry again.
I need to eat. I need gas for my car. I need medical care. I need water. I need safety. And I need shelter. The basics. And okay, Mike, let me ask you this. What about every day now, Putin is telling us he's going to nuke us. He's telling us he's going to nuke somebody. He's warning the Europeans. He shut the oil off of Poland and Bulgaria. How close are we? Is he going to do something? Maybe a small tactical nuke? Is something about to happen?
Putin is not joking. When people hear on the media, there's always an SOP, standard operating procedure they have to operate by in the media, right? So when they address Putin, they're not going to address him as some sober individual. They're always going to address him like he has lost his mind, or they're going to laugh off some of what he's talking about or something like that. Folks, hear me. Putin is not joking. What he's doing is giving a warning to the populace. Putin will always warn the populace before he does something. He did the same thing in the Ukraine.
Yep.
He did the same thing in Crimea. He gave these warnings of exactly what he was going to do. He told those people in there exactly what he was going to do. And then months later, he did it. He's doing it again. He's doing it in the same pattern that he also said with Ukraine, Crimea. He's doing the same thing. Before he took out some of the operatives, some of his own people that were against him, he gave them a warning. He said, look, you might want to reevaluate where you stand. He gave them a chance, but when they continued, they ended up dead. Right? You're looking at 125 people he personally took out. He personally ordered their death. So when it comes to him saying he's going to launch a nuclear weapon, because essentially the world right now has taken everything away from Russia or has blocked him in every corner. They're messing with his daughters. They're starting to stoke his anger. And he has. It doesn't matter what anybody said. A lot of people say, well, he doesn't have the capability to launch a nuclear. Are you kidding me?
Are you
Putin
serious?
Purposely, when he became president, he had a redundant system put in place. That's evident by some of the radar systems that were left out, that people found them to be, they were dummies, right? In other words, you could enter the codes, they would go through all the ops, but they had to go through that CNC center that he put up. And only, if I'm not mistaken, about 4 or 5 people know where it is. And his family, they know where it is. They know exactly where it's at, which is why it keeps him far away from it. And when he wants to launch, if something happens to Putin, there's also a KGB trick that I'm sure is in the works. If something ever happens to Putin, do you not know, without his biosignature, a machine will not authorize the shutdown of a procedure that will automatically start.
So there's a kill
starts
switch
every single day, and without his biosignature, if he doesn't have that biosignature, it will not shut down. It will not shut down. So it starts every single day, and only he and a couple other people have authorization to stop it. So you're looking at something. It's just like if you took a weapon, right, and put a device on it where that trigger pulls every single morning, and the only thing that stops the hammer from going the bolt from going all the way back is you pushing a button to halt the firing sequence. That's essentially what we're looking at. So
let me ask you this question.
Why do you think he's still alive? They could have taken this guy out 1,000 times.
Okay,
right?
so you're saying there's a fail-safe.
People out 1,000 times.
There's a
but they know about dead man switches.
There's a dead man switch. There's a fail-safe that if he dies, it will set off something, several maybe.
Yes, it will. Yes,
okay.
It will.
Do you know at this moment, is there any intelligence out there that isn't classified that who are the next in line there? I mean, who replaces Putin if he dies of a heart attack or something?
Well, you know what? Outside of the standard chain of command, right?
Yep.
Of what people have been given, no one's going to discuss that except by authorized opinion, because he has changed his entire command structure. Putin doesn't trust people, and this situation with the Ukraine has actually caused him to uproot quite a few people. Right? He has some trusted friends. It's almost like that situation that a lot of leaders found themselves in. Hitler, Mussolini, all these guys, and they got people they could trust. Right? After something happened and he found out they didn't have the heart to go through with things, because some people quit because they would not be a part of killing all those people in the Ukraine. That's an actual statement. They said, nope, not going to have a part of that because he's going to kill every single last one of them. Right? They said, I'm not going to do that. And they just couldn't go through with it. So he has since made some changes. Right? And so the folks that will come up behind him they're going to be handpicked. They're being checked out every single day, right? They're being tested to see where their loyalty is. Better believe that. And all the traitors are being marked. They probably will be terminated if this situation does not turn around, right? Because he's giving a chance before he goes for broke. He understands that the Russian people, if the Russian people are stripped of everything, right, he's going to say, well, that's the end game. We may as well go to the ultimate step, because all Russia will die. Right? If there's ever a chance that Russia will certainly die, that it won't be Russia anymore, I'm telling you right now, he'll do anything and everything. He loves Russia, period. He loves it, period. He loves the people. He has a genuine love for the people. And to him, he's like a father who won't fail his own people, right? But if a person says, I'm not your people anymore, right? Then naturally they're going to be against his family. He has that type mindset. It's kind of like a mafia leader or something like that, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's what it is.
I don't want to put that on the man himself, but this guy's adopted some traits and practices that, well, they just fall in line with some of the extremist attitudes people have in the world today. And so when he makes that threat, you better believe it's going to happen, but it will also be foreshadowed. So watch for the foreshadowing, because he'll foreshadow it. He'll send a warning shot. He's going to let the world know he's not bluffing. And that's when everything will change if they're smart enough. I have a suspicion, Pastor Paul, that one of his warning shots is going to affect the USA and Europe and the UK.
Yeah.
Right?
I
and
do
even
too.
right now, my heart is going out to the UK. It really goes out to the UK. I know that Italy is in the right in the middle of a monster, but my heart is going out to the UK. I cannot help it. There are just too many unprotected places that could really be compromised, right? So my heart's going out to the UK as well as Europe and America, but first and foremost the UK, because they to me, they're the most dangerous. So Putin is not playing. So we're going to find out.
Mike, this has been a tremendous revealing broadcast for sure. Saturday we're doing what's called the Global Revival, and we're linking people from Pakistan. We're going to have 2,400 people at a crowd in Pakistan that they're gathering. I don't know how many in India, and also will be in Africa, and then other people speaking. And tonight we're asking for some help tonight. We need to raise $5,000 to help pay for this. Those people can't pay anything. We're giving to them. We're making it happen so the people can be there. We're busing people in. We're feeding people. We got to make sure it happens. We want to lead people to Christ. And so I want to say something. What you've done tonight is you've just shared with everyone that the urgency of us to get this gospel to the world and to be ready ourselves. The moment is now, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It really is. And you know what, Pastor Paul, it's like that. I know a lot of people, they kind of turn away from any money situation, right?
Right.
But I said this before and I'll say it again. These are times when Satan cannot be allowed to win in any house of God. You know what that means? Not one pastor out there should have to ask for a dime.
Right.
You know why? Because everybody knows that the pastor is taken care of by the congregation. And
Right.
This is a time when people should follow what the Lord has put in them without hesitation. I'm serious. Whatever He put in a person, and it's not always money, right? But no pastor should have it, because God has put the pastor in the hands of the people. He really has. And He did it in the Bible, and the people were responsible. They didn't even know it. This is a time for people not to act on these worldly reservations. Well, I don't know what anybody's going to do with it, and this, that, and the other. No, but to act on the voice of God, because I'll tell everybody something. I love to give, Pastor Paul, and there was a guy that I gave to, and everybody said, well, you're stupid for giving that guy money, right?
Right.
You know what happened 4 years later? This same guy came back, and he had to tell me. He said, you know what? My life has changed, because this guy was a Christian. You know what he said? He said the day I gave him that money, because he knew who I was, it ate him up for all those years. It would not leave him alone. He gave his life to Christ, and it still ate him up because he took advantage of something he deemed that was anointed. He comes back 4 years later and he finds me. He apologizes, right? He gives me this whole story, but then he also tells me how his life turned around. It turned around because that what I gave him ate away at him until he changed. You know what I told him? When you give with a heart of love, right? Yep. Because God is love. When you give with a heart of love, God is associated with what you give. And because He is associated with what you give, it's no longer up to me what happens to us, no longer up to anybody else. God takes care of it.
God takes it from there.
He's obedient, and His word never returns void. No. So what that means is, because a person gave from the heart, right? Their heart, the very thing that's broken inside of them, the very thing they're troubled by, all these fright and scares and everything that people has, the Lord Himself will look over those issues for the person, because He always watches over. He won't watch over my word to perform it, but He'll watch over His word to perform it. And He will never fail. Amen. And when a person gives an obedience, right? Yep. They just released His word in the situation, right? But it takes a heart of love. That means a person has to see. They have to see what they're doing. Yep. Do it with the heart of love, but never hesitate. That's exactly what Satan wants. If Satan can cause hesitation, right? It's kind of like you walk by somebody on the street and your heart says, well, go ask him something, or go give him something, and you hesitate. There's a guilt that comes with it. There's an opportunity missed. And people are saying, where's my family blessing? Why is my child messed up? Why am I in this situation? If they want those things broken, they have to walk in obedience. Real obedience with love. They have to want to do it, right?
That's right.
They want to do it. So when they give, when anybody gives anything, not necessarily all money, but anything freely like that for the sake of the kingdom, it never goes unanswered. But the key is to give with love. Amen. And that puts you in that obedient path. And in obedience is everything a person would ever require. Because I'll tell you something, in the times to come, money is not going to help a soul.
Nope.
It's not going to help anybody.
Nope.
But they're going to need things from the Most High, because nobody else is going to be able to provide it. And they have to clear their conscience, right? If your conscience is not clear, there's a reason for that. Yes. Clear it up. We're not to have a messed up conscience when Christ comes back. Because if we do, that means we purposely left things undone. We purposely did that. And so hopefully people get this. So, because if it's one thing I hate to hear, Pastor, I hate to hear people who would dare preach the gospel ever have to ask for anything. Because I know for a fact that God gives insight to folks spiritually, right? If they would just obey, no one would ever talk about money again. If they would just obey.
Well, that's the key. If they would just obey. And we thank God. So thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for your support. And thank you for giving us the truth tonight. And I think Steve Quayle did a great job tonight as well. And I think you guys have just nailed it. This is the time. We're in the end times. And it's time to get things right with God, folks. It really is. Mike, appreciate it. Thank you for being with us tonight. God bless you. God bless you, brother. I'll see you next week, Lord willing.
All right.
Okay.
God bless.
Bye-bye.